Ladies and gents. Apologies for the delay. Thank you for being patient with us. I have one public comment. Thank you. Please sign in on your way out if you could. I'm just stalling for Kim to get going here. Okay. Looks like we'll just call it 6:30. Call to order. So stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kim, we're ready for roll call.
All right, Dr. Breckenridge Pettit. Here. Dr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. Hobbs.
Here.
Mrs. Lundberg. Here. Mrs. Pascal. Ms. Shookman. Here. And Mr. Smith.
Here. Opening up the floor for board member comments. It's been a while. I know somebody's got something. Go for it, Jim. Get that microphone on.
I want to send out some summer surge thank yous. Sean Clark and the maintenance facility for amazing floors, hallways, middle school boy bathrooms, etc. Thank you for that surge. Jake and Josh for packets of ones and zeros on the dark web. No, the black web. Dark fiber. Dark fiber. Right. Kim Letourneau for the amazing new website, which is really, really useful. Thank you. Team Business for paying down those the PTO buyback to the staff, including our new employee Kelly. Thank you for that. Sheila for still being willing to work with Aaron because we're getting close there. Will, amazing employment. Thank you. We're in fabulous shape. And then Jim for some really interesting data and graphics on behavior. With the thin green line was last year. So thank you for that summer search stuff. That's all I have.
In addition to that, I would just say thank you to David and admin team and teachers for it sounds like a very smooth start to the school year. And also just looking at stuff on our kids, right? Like we've come a long way from when I started 2 years ago. You know, people, just really can have done a great job. Going through the policies, working with checklists and recommendations, and knowing exactly what we're supposed to be improving and keeping track of all of those documents throughout the year. So that's great.
I appreciate all the new handbooks. For me, like just reading through those, it's like, oh, this is how it all, comes together and what the policies. And so I think those all came together very nicely, and I appreciate those. I'm sure parents and staff and the students really appreciate them too. I hope they take time to use them. So thanks for putting the time into that, to all the handbook writers.
I would echo all the thanks and dropping kids off and running into people. It's great to see everybody. Great to be back, kind of rolling. As much as I was like, oh man, I'm meeting again. So I know David and team have been working at it really hard for the past few weeks. Teachers came back middle of last week or something, and so the grind started a while ago. So kudos again to getting operational up and going. Seemed to be pretty smooth and everything's pretty happy. So systems are all go, and appreciate all the work to get to this point and have our kids ready to go on starting yesterday. So, okay. Written messages to the board. I know we had a few emails come through, but I don't think those are official written messages. So, public comments. Mike Lamont, floor is yours. You stand there. You can go somewhere else if you want. Try to get you a microphone so we can let you be heard. And
some of you have heard me before. All right, I'll stand if it's official. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Michael Lamond. I am now the co-president of SEA with Andre Wilkins. And I wanted to come this evening and speak just for a couple of minutes about where we're going, right? There's a key word, and I love how every one of you emphasize the idea that things are going well, that kids are happy, that teachers are happy, buildings are looking great, right? Like this year has been an incredible start so far. My 2 kids came home from Longfellow, psyched about school, psyched about their teachers. That's what we want. So how do we keep that? So using optimism as kind of a theme. As I'm stepping in, there's more history than I bring with me here in the district. And I understand that, right? I've heard a lot of negative things talked about from both sides. What I want is to leave that in the past. I don't want to ignore it. I don't want to pretend it didn't happen, but I want to use that as motivation to stay away from that, to realize that we want to work together to keep this optimism, to keep our students happy, to keep our staff happy, to keep the community happy. And I 100% firmly believe that that's possible. And I think I'm excited. I've never been a president before. I've been involved in a union my entire career, but this is an opportunity for me to grow as well. And I look at this as an opportunity. I want to engage with the board. I want you to ask me questions. I want to be able to ask you questions, and neither of us feel threatened by that. Because when that happens, then our guards go up and we revert back to where we were a few years ago. If we can work together and move forward, then we're going to see growth in all aspects. Looking ahead, thinking about what are our common goals? We have common goals. They're around students, they're around safety, they're around growth, they're around student opportunity, they're around staff satisfaction, staff retention. We have the same goals in mind. Somewhere along the way in the last few years, there's been a rift, there's been a crack. I'm not sure how it started or why it did. We can't ignore it, but we can move forward. We can fix it. We can work together. And when we look at our common goals, not looking at what we have against each other, not looking at what has created these problems, but when we look at our common goals, then we're going to figure out how to get there together. And I, for one, I mean, my wife's not too happy about it, but I, for one, am incredibly excited about the opportunity. I respect each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you for the time that you give. And I'm excited for this year. And I want you to know that. That's where we're coming from. We're coming from a place of optimism. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. I look forward to working with you this year.
Thank you, Michael. Moving on. Approval of the agenda with the following changes. Looks like addition of action item 5C, approve addition of 2.5 FTE positions to support lunch and substitute duty at Salida Middle School. Looking for a motion to approve with that change. So,
Who wants the second?
no. Discussion, comments, approval of the agenda. Being none, ready for a vote?
Dr. Breckenridge-Pettit. Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Hobbs. Mrs. Lundberg. Mrs. Haskell. Ms. Schickman. And Mr. Smith.
Okay, we have no guest reports, we have no campus reports, but we do have Aaron, Will, and David here to give us some campus district reports, updates, and the floor is yours.
All right, this will be a little bit long. It is the second day of school. It was a great start, one of the best starts I've had in my career. I got to sit with all the principals, second day of school, which is pretty nice. I just say, here's what you have to know, now tell me all the things that need to happen. From I need wood chips to I need this badge reader to work to I need this person in Time Clock Plus to this program didn't work or there's a smell over here, whatever it is, right? It's the shortest list I've ever had. So it feels like an earlier start, at least if you're trying to get things going. And everyone did a great job. So super, super happy with all of our staff. And from a student side, we didn't have surprises in enrollment. We had struggles in some places, but it didn't come like, we didn't have like 15 people show up and go, oh, school's starting. Like, it went great. The communication was there with the buildings. We figured those things out. And so just couldn't say enough of positive things from there. I'm just going to start to go through some things, talk about it, and I'll just jump over to you guys, and we'll kind of go back and forth as we are going through those things. I do want to mention to you, it's embargoed at this time, but our academic scores, right, which may not be the full definition of success for a school district, but it is a definition for sure. and it is the definition by which everyone is compared to at the state of Colorado and by the federal government. I cannot share all the scores, but you can't do any better than we did. And so our staff just did an amazing job, and the students were able to demonstrate that and their learning last year. And so I'm excited. Next month, I'll be going with the District Accountability Committee and sharing this, we'll call it SPFs or DPFs, School Performance Frameworks or District Performance Frameworks. You'll be getting those. I'm hoping to be able to share those. Will be not embargoed, and I can share those with you at the retreat or the long work session we have here in 2 weeks. We'll see. I can't remember the embargo, so I'm hoping to bring those with you, but I can't be more excited that, again, you'll find yourselves towards the top of the heap of the 178 school districts. Again, another great year from that perspective. There's obviously some data points we're looking into and saying, ooh, did they get better like we wanted? We'll talk about some of those pieces. But I just wanted to let you know because it falls in between board meetings. And so it's kind of like, does the board know what's going on or not? And so you guys will know as soon as I can release data points. We can talk about them. And then in the September board meeting on your agenda will be to approve those or acknowledge those, which includes your designations and any of those kind of spots of your accreditation of your buildings and your district. So that's coming to you, and it's just beautiful, great news. I'm excited to share with you. Next thing we've spent a lot of time is security, and opening up school is one of our biggest pushes, is making sure the systems that we intend or theoretically have in place for security are up and running. And so that's where a lot of energy goes. And so it's a lot of multi-agency work between like our city fire and our city police. Those are our two key partners. They help us partner with other agencies like Chaffee County in that sense. They're our key piece. They have representatives on our school safety team. Sean over here is on the school safety team. You've got myself, Will, Kim as your public information officer, and we're starting to include Josh Buckberg, who leads technology, because so much of your work comes into we meet all the time, but over the summer there was that big multi-agency drill. The city of Salida police were the ones that initiated that, led that for multi-agency. It was their drill to see how can they work well with other agencies. That went very well. They're debriefed. They learned some things they can do better. Other things we do in our district, right? About every other month, our SWAT team comes in and they rent. It's free, but we let them have access to one of our buildings so that they can do their drills and their operations in there. Most importantly, they start to learn, have an experiential knowledge about the layout of our buildings, which is important for that response team. Those are low probabilities, but I know there's also some people's highest anxieties. And so mentioning those, that people are ready to do that. We have to spend a lot more time on some of the higher probabilities, but maybe lower fear-based things. For instance, we know that this year, it is very, very likely that we'll have an issue where a kid is getting hurt, an abuse or something like that. It happens every year. It's high probability, right? So our systems are based around that. We know this year we will have particularly adolescents who are struggling with despair, right? Suicidal ideation. It's coming this year. And so our systems are ready for that. And then you also always were worried about our students, right? Particularly when you combine substance abuse in a town where we expose our kids to substances like marijuana and alcohol earlier than everyone else in the state and the country. It's part of the town that we're in, and when you put that behind a car, right, that is a high probability of danger to our kids, and so we have to prepare for those things. I just mentioned that because a lot of us want to talk about security for the very, very scary thing, and I understand that, and we are prepared for that. But it's also, today we had to use an SRP, a standard response protocol, because our middle school doesn't have natural light in all the buildings, and we had a power outage on the second day. So they called one of our standard response protocols a hold. Everyone stay put in your room because it was dark in all the places. They had to figure it out. That's an example of standard response and making sure that everyone can operate across all kinds of things. And I always go there because I feel like so many of us go to the really scary place, which I get. I'm a dad. And those are the low probability things. So we also then, in the first Friday of August, we bring back, that's the first kind of day back, everybody for our front office teams. Those are also our building safety or our site safety teams. They all come back. That's your counselors, your deans, your principals, your front office secretaries, your psychologists, all of the people in the room together. And we review our emergency operating plan, our EOP. We go through it, we practice and go through scenarios, and everyone reminds themselves what is our response in this instance, in that instance. And then they go through line by line their emergency operating plan for their building and their responses. And red line and say, oh, this didn't get updated. We actually don't do this, we do this, or we call this person, that number's at it. So we update that whole system in that day. And then those teams then plan their reunification drill. So of our responses, the reunification is the one the schools are 100% kind of responsible for, and the agencies look to us to tell them what they need. So if we have a situation, let's take today, the power stays off, and that creates some scenario where we can't use the buses. Like anytime, that's our best reunification, and we get 1,300 kids back to exactly the right parent through a drop-off system. It is so complicated. That's why, like a early childhood center, people don't really understand. They do reunification every single day. They have to hand this 2-year-old has to get to this parent on this day, but on this day it goes to aunt, but on this day it goes to sister, right? I mean, we have to know all those things, and then the custody battles happen, or they change over the school year, and the secretaries have to know, well, this kid used to go home with this person, now they go home with this person. It's not a simple thing. If we ever lose our bus system, let's say a security event happens at 3:45, and it takes us an hour and a half to figure it out and get it all stabilized. Now it's like 5:30, right? Everyone's work schedules are messed up across. So you have to it just invades the entire community. And then we have to do a reunification. So that's why every building, at the beginning of the year, it's one of the reasons, and on that day, they all trained and planned their reunification drill. So on the 28th is the first one, and it happens at the beginning of the year, right, at Longfellow. So they will do an early release that day, and then they will reunify their kindergartners with the kindergarten parents. Because then they have that feeling of they took that family as kindergartners, and they've got it for a few years. That's kind of the logic behind it. They don't do a full-scale reunification, but it's really important that early release. I'm saying this to the public as much as the board. It helps us because many times parents don't think about two things: updating our Infinite Campus data system. So we have to reunify at 5:30. The bus system was messed up. Who am I calling? Did your cell phone change? Did who we call change? And it's important also, I think of like first responders or teachers. Because if there's an incident, let's say in the family, dad's teaching and mom's a first responder, and we have a security event. Mom and dad are not picking up Junior. So who's picking up Junior? And so we do it at the beginning of the year for people to go, oh, I didn't even think about that fact that I'm going to have my neighbor be prepped and on the Infinite Campus database. Because if there's an incident, the firewoman is not going to pick up Junior. They are on duty until that incident is over. And that teacher is not going to be able to step out of their classroom and run over to the other building to grab their kid, because that teacher is on duty until that security event is over. So we run those things to make sure that all those databases are there, and it gives us a chance right up front to go, okay, we have our security and our response systems in place, not for all conceivable scenarios, but we are ready to respond as best we can. We have our generic responses that we can then dial in and try and respond better. I think we're in a very good place. Relationships are good with agencies. SRO, that is part of your consent agenda, is to approve another contract for their SRO, and that IGA, or intergovernmental agreement. At the moment, the city of Salida is paying 100% of that bill. They have kind of given me reference to say aloud that they might be thinking we should be sharing that more. So that might come up in our budget season in April. And I will mention Officer, where's his last name? Tucker, thank you, was nominated in our region. That's a 5-state region as the SRO of the year last year for the work. So we have a great relationship. On that, it does a call out in our IGA that we have to do an evaluation that we provide the city of Salida. That has gone out to principals and will be provided to them, which then lets Chief Johnson take that input as he's trying to do his evaluation of his employee in that state. I also want to mention on security, Same thing, trying to get things started. The first reunification is the 28th. Intentionally then on the night before, on the 27th at 6:30, we'll be at the high school auditorium. We started it last year as a parent Q&A around security. It gives me a chance to stand with our first responders and parents who may have questions, whether that's an anxiety piece or just want information. All board members are welcome to attend to hear what kind of questions and what kind of answers we're providing for our community. It also is always a chance for me to go, oh my gosh, no one has ever asked me that question in 25 years. I got to go think about that. I got to go back to our safety team or back to the police or back to the fire. So the 27th, 6:30, 27th, 6:30, high school auditorium. And it's open to the public. So, I mean, theoretically, you could have 1,000 people or you could have 2 people show up. Yeah, I think there was about 30 people, I think, last year. And so just want to make sure parents have that opportunity to express their anxieties and get a chance to try and answer the questions they want, and also to ask questions. What is this reunification drill? We didn't do that in my previous district. I'm a little baffled by this habit that you have. I'm going to pause there. Anything, Will, that you would add about safety and security, and then we'll take board member questions on that topic.
No, I was going to mention what you did, Dr. Blackburn, about our SRO and the national recognition she received. Just a couple little details. Like the State Board of Education has to get the growth results before they go public and before they're unembargoed.
So this is around the school performance frameworks.
So that's coming up at the end of the month. The lights went out today in all but one of the buildings. I was at 2 buildings and called 2 other principals. Nobody skipped a beat. David mentioned we went on hold in one building. ECC went on an extended nap.
I knew I was at the wrong building.
It worked out great, and the high school classes actually moved off towards the windows and the rooms that they had and kept teaching. So it's just one of those things. I think people are doing a really good job with that. I mean, there's some other things I could talk about, but
Okay. Questions about security. I'm going to jump to technology and how that has been interacting with security and safety and then other communication stuff. But questions, you guys want to have some feedback around security, safety kind of topics?
I just would love to make sure we really publicize that to our community.
Okay.
So that everyone's aware that it's our best on that.
Excellent.
It's not security, but it's what I talked about, the academics.
Yeah, on the school performance framework
Yeah,
accreditation.
yeah. So that data that's embargoed,
Yes.
will that include growth?
All of that data that is
Yes.
on those
All
grade
those different
cards,
things.
the state board has to see it first by
Okay.
law, then
That's
it
all
comes to you guys publicly.
Thank you.
But there's settings where I can go through that stuff because I'm not publishing it somehow.
I would just echo Mandy's comments of come a long ways the past few years and appreciate the work and effort by the team to kind of address some of the concerns that the community had about safety.
I will say this, Joe, and at the debrief with the PD and everybody after the practice event, David, to your point of we have teachers that have kids that could potentially be not able to get there. About a third of the 60 people in the room that I was in, the first responders, I asked who has kids in the school district. About a third of them raised their hand. And that conversation came up of, oh, if I'm doing this and my husband or wife is doing that,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? So it was great dialogue, and I mean, it was real talk, and I feel real good about the relationships that we have built with our first responders, all of them.
I think we've got good habits and kind of patterns right now with doing some drills in the summer that are more first responder stuff, working with different teams, and then coming in and getting us started up and making sure the systems are online. Another huge change, and it's big kudos out to the technology team. The technology team is 2 people, Josh and Jake. They beat my predictions. I said, you cannot overhaul the entire system the way you are saying we're going to overhaul the entire system and have it work when school starts. There's just going to be a problem, no matter how hard you try. There's no problems. Like, there's little problems, but there's no.
Okay, yeah.
But it wasn't like we couldn't use stuff. The things I had was like, wait a minute, you gave me a new computer and I have 6 new systems I have to learn. Okay. All week long, people are learning about this thing called WebEx. It's a brand new tool that because we changed and now have a dedicated fiber system for things, we have a brand new communication tool that's changing, and I think it's going to be able to help us better. Like our radios, when the power went down today, our radios weren't working, right? We're having some problems. Everybody was able to work on this new system, WebEx, and we were able to keep on working. It's like, okay. So there's little things where we have more tools than we had before, but some of them we want to understand before we say this is our standard response. I want to make sure that the response is standardized and in place, and then how can we do better? But that is an example of a whole new system that people are learning. I mentioned that to a board. These little things take up the capacity of change of your staff, your teachers, your front offices. They aren't big things, but sometimes you rearrange a secretary's whole communication system. There's a lot of people that person communicates to, and it may not take months, but it takes weeks that all their attention is to learning and seeing how, in this instance, it falls apart because you don't know about how this pickup goes with this parent or custodian. We also have a brand new, not just the fiber, the switches, there's also Active Directory Management System. You'll hear me use the term Azure. I'm learning these things. It's basically the hub of the wheel that allows us to raid Infinite Campus database, and then all the apps can go in and touch into that. For instance, there's a brand new system. It's called Single Wire. So now we redid what we call our lockdown buttons. We have pull our fire alarms to evacuate. We have lockdown buttons if we need to get into secure spaces at the most extreme or least dynamic zones. So when I pushed that, it was kind of a system built on top of a system built on top of a system that wasn't always functional last year. So with the new infrastructure, Josh and Jake were able to overlay that with a new system that allows us to have better security communications and more reliable. And so we've been testing those with dispatch and trying to make sure when we push that button, does it call dispatch? Does it call central offices? And so many big upgrades. We're seeing much more consistency there. I mentioned that because now it's like, okay, we need to transition this habit or this protocol or this thing over to the new system. So you've got those in place. You've also got a brand new website, right? So if parents need information, think security, just coming out of that, or just how to operate. When is athletics starting? It's a brand new website. Are all the links working? I think until 5,000 people try and press every link, and then we'll find out, that one doesn't go where we think it goes. And so it's a big change. It's not, doesn't maybe not feel like it, but it takes a lot of energy. Our app is also in the middle of being redesigned. We're not satisfied with how the designs come out yet. So now we've started school and we're in between the old one, which we've discontinued. We don't really have the new one. I foresee that being a little bit of confusion here in the opening month when people are saying, do I use the app or the website? So that is like daily working on that. We got way behind because working with Apple on app. How do I say that, Kim?
Or hard to get through.
We got through it. We now have something we're about 50%, but because of all the new systems that Josh has been able to bring online, we're starting to ask design questions of, is the app really the right way to do it? Or do we have a better, more consistent, reliable way to talk to our parents with push notifications? So one of the things I will mention, because board members brought it up, we drill a lot, right? We do that out of regulation, but also out of just collaboration with our first responders. I'm comfortable with that. Some people are going to say you drill too much and you cause anxiety by drilling too much. I understand that, but if you don't practice, then you're not going to have a habit that you can build off of. When you're trying to deal with that many people in a small building, you have to have a habit. That being said, we don't think we need to push out to every single person every notification of every drill that we run. So we are trying on the app or whatever notification system say, if you would like to be that person who knows about every notification of every drill, you can subscribe to that. But if you're not that person, you can just subscribe to the news from your child's building, which could include there was a power outage, we went into hold, your child's safe in that sense, right? But trying to put the drill notifications on a separate line of communication so that doesn't wear out the lines of communication so that people aren't listening when we need them to listen. So in technology, there's more going on than just that, but those are some of the big changes. They do interact with those security systems, but then they interact with our learning management systems and how we just talk about learning in the classroom and communicating with parents. So there's going to be a lot of energy this year trying to dial those in to say, oh, that was a great idea, but boy, it didn't work like we intended. Either abandoning it, restarting, or going, well, how do we change it a little bit to make it work right for parents? So there's going to be a give and take. Just telling board members, at some point, one of the new communication systems on the new infrastructure is going to lead to a miscommunication. Someone's going to go there into that, a parent, and they're going to be frustrated, and I assume they would call you, right? And we're going to say, I'm sorry, that's not our intent. We're working to get better. But I do see that out in our community as you try and do better in communications, that some of those efforts are going to go left when you hoped they would have gone right. So I'm going to pause on technology. Anything, Will, you think I should add about the work they've done or
A little list here, but I mean, we've now got new batteries to where everything will run tech-wise for about 40 minutes when the electricity goes off, which doesn't sound like a long time, except before it was about 40 seconds. So, you know, that's a big one. But really, I mean, Sean's here. He's going to talk a little bit about the ADA playground, but his team, I really appreciate. I know he does too. Being recognized for the things that are going on. His report was really long. We were going to do a walkthrough today of 3 of the big buildings inside and out, except it was raining outside and then the lights went off. So we couldn't do either one of those. He's over here almost 2-3 times a week with me and the superintendent for the build, looking at blueprints, talking about where is this going to go, where is that going to go, and the thing it's frustrating. I know to him, it's frustrating to me sometimes. There's always more to do than time to do it, and I'm the worst. I notice what didn't get done versus what did get done. Grass is always going to grow, and it's easy to say it didn't get mowed. And so those are just kind of a little bit of a precursor for him. I had some great questions from some of you on his report, and we can go into more of that if you need to, but I'd just like to turn it over to Sean because I know.
I got a long list here, so I want to keep going. Because technology. Is there anything else you had about technology?
You hit everything I had for technology.
Because I got a lot of praise for maintenance in a sec.
I mean, the fiber build was huge. The phone systems, the WebEx, the camera systems. Josh actually wants to do way more. I have to tell him every day no, because he wants to go so fast with things and have everything connected, and we're getting there, and it'll be great.
So excited about the new system we have. Will allow us to do whatever technology things we need for our kids for the next 10 years. Right? This system is robust enough to get us through that. Questions from board members about technology in that department? You can tell we're going to go through these things. I think it's important for the public. All right, I will jump over then. Before we get to maintenance, let's do nutrition. Anything you want to jump in on nutrition?
You know, Andrea and her staff, she's been under the gun a little bit from the feds. So we had the Healthy School Meals for All with the state chipped in to pay free food for all of our kids for breakfast and lunch. And then they realized they couldn't afford that. So the feds came in and said, oh, well, we'll help with some of that based on your free and reduced lunch numbers, but you got to play by some different rules. So she's been working with her staff and our teachers around what those different rules are and the oversight and requirements. And at the same time, the old free and reduced lunch form that we all got as parents in the mail or in the packet completely changed. The name changed, except the stakes are higher now with what that means. And all of that was done the last 3 weeks of summer. But on the positives, with her menus, with the system that we have, she knows what's going to be served every day of each month. So you say, why does that matter? It matters for ordering, it matters for storage, it matters for food costs. And as you look at those things throughout the year and you say, this day the food cost is way too high, we're losing money, we can make that change moving forward. So that she's super aware of how things were budgeted. She's working real hard with local people. Big, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but a big local broccoli grower is bringing in fresh broccoli every week. They're processing it. I mean, I thought, okay, fresh broccoli wasn't like a lot of fresh broccoli, which is pretty neat, and the kids are eating that. She is dealing with some freezer and refrigerator issues. Some of that will come up on a CAP wish list for later in the spring. We did lose a big number, about 10 grand worth of food over the summer when the freezers went down and no one knew. We didn't have a way to know till you opened it. But we've got some alarm systems going in on those. Her staff has worked real hard. She's moved some people around. Have a new driver for Crust, which is working out well. And I didn't talk about Crust earlier, but you noticed when you came in on the dirt road, you've got all these big ginormous signs. So far, 2 days, no one's gone in the wrong door. And no one's parked in the wrong spot. It's worked great. But Andrea and her team are doing good things. I did attach a late report from her to you guys that details some more of these things. I think it just went out here today.
Yeah. There's one update to your update, but I don't know about that.
That'd be about all I have.
That's great. I would mention the power outage. I think we are going to have to explore the technology side from a security standpoint, and also freezer space. Like when the power went out today, Andrew immediately texted me worried about all that food sitting in all those fridges and freezers. So I think we might be looking at, we'll have to do a cost analysis, whether the cost of trying to have backup or energy systems is better than the risk of having like food at risk. So we'll have to be talking about those.
One thing just to note on that, it's total small town, but it's a beautiful thing. When the power went out, I don't know, 3 times ago, was that yesterday or 3 days ago when it went out? And when it was out for an extended period of time, Andrea has reached out to Walmart and they've said, you bring as much stuff up here as you need. We'll freeze it. You can drive into the thing and go unload it and keep it there. John Fast, who's the manager up there, asked kids in the district. I said, yeah, we'll make that happen for you. So that's kind of a neat small town deal that hopefully we can resolve it internally, but worst case scenario, we can keep that broccoli frozen.
Is that an insurable?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I didn't get the final dollar amount on it after talking to him.
It might be, I don't know. And then I think it'll have to be part of our cost analysis. Like Sean tells me, you need a massive generator. Where are you going to put it? Is it actually cost effective, or can you have 15 crises before you even approach the cost of solving the problem?
And the freezers don't plug in. That's the other thing too. It's not like just buying a generator. No, we can just back it up. They're hardwired in the buildings. So it would be a completely different backup setup than just buying some big old diesel generators.
Questions at all about nutrition? Anything you guys are hearing that you want details? We're starting up school. All right, jumping over to transportation. A great year. I think I'll let you guys talk about anything, but I do appreciate transportation, figuring out this building here. As you've driven around and tried to park, it's a nightmare. Or if you live across the street, it's a nightmare. And so it's just, I appreciate it. We figured those things out. So I don't know, Will or Evelyn, if you want to
I'll
go
let
someplace.
Evelyn go, but just she's got a bad tooth. She's got a bum tooth. So she's not talking as much as she would like. But you guys need to realize that Evelyn, I know everybody loves her to death, but does this bus rodeo. And you're like, okay, great. It's a bus rodeo. It's showing people how to drive and how to be safe. It is, except it's bringing in drivers from different districts. It's bringing in state people. Evelyn's a state trainer. They're doing presentations on human trafficking and what to look for drivers, not so much on your buses, but in trucks and in cars and in other things that are going on with state folks. They had some electricity issues out there today, and we're not exactly sure what doesn't work, but we know some things don't work. Her fuel tank was installed and it's full, and we're loading gas. If you haven't driven by the bus barn, do it. It looks real nice and it saves them time. It saves us money.
How much does that save a gallon? Like how much is that new rate?
You know, and she's dealing with driver shortage. I'm gonna have to run another ad for bus drivers. We've got one going. We need some subs. If anybody's been down Highway 50 this summer at all the stoplights, all the one lanes, the people holding the signs, her buses are dealing with that. Our parents are dealing with that. I talked to a couple of parents this week. They've been all over CDOT. They've been calling everybody trying to get things changed, but they're reasonable, and she's getting through. What else did I leave out?
I'm on CDOT, all your stuff that goes down to the canyon, CDOT hired the company to do the road construction, but they cannot dictate what time you start. I have been talking to the construction manager of that project. Real close, he knows the buses are running, they're doing everything they can. The biggest thing is Route 4 may be 5-7 minutes late. Just keep it late. Make sure it gets it. Other than that, we're running right on.
Evelyn, about how many state trainers are there right now in our state of Colorado, like you are?
I'm not just a state trainer, I'm a federal trainer.
How many of them are in the state?
There is probably, in the school districts is mostly where they're at. They're probably at 20, 30. Right now, I took the title for the bus trained drivers, not in just the buses, but I also train Class A drivers. So I step up. And I do it. I want sincere drivers. I've only failed 3 of them so far. So I do take pride in that.
I think you should.
I will probably continue that for a while.
And we benefit from that in a lot of ways. We also.
A lot of your districts. That's the other reason is that we're the only district in 100 miles that still has standard transmissions. That's the reason I want to keep those standards, because if you don't test the standard, you have that restriction on your license, and now you can't drive something that's standard.
The thing that just as board members know is there was a very large kind of download of federal transportation rule changes. So that is going to change, kind of like think about a teacher or coach accessing the small vehicles. And there's going to be points of frustration. They're like, you got to be kidding me. Evelyn's making us do all these things. It's because the federal rules changed. I want to make sure you have that background when that person calls you and say, yep, a lot of things change. It's not just Evelyn being difficult. She has to change these things because and that's what's hard about our transportation department. It's federally controlled, just like our nutrition department is federally controlled, which is always going to be rigid rules, right? The farther you get away from the problem and you have the rules made, then all you can make is rigid rules that aren't necessarily common sense. It's how things are made.
To add to that, David, the reason why the feds are coming down so hard and the state are coming down so hard, as you've seen in the news, one of them was really dramatic out of Denver. The special needs student that was beaten on the bus right there. CDE and the feds are taking a lot of heat for that. So now, as the driver, I have a lot of training I have to do. If I have, I want to volunteer to be grandma on the bus. You can't do that. You seriously have to consider a lot of bus accidents that have happened. And most of those bus accidents are happening because coaches are driving the trip. Because we can't find drivers, so now we're allowing our coaches to drive. And now we're going over the hours of service, getting frustrated and having accidents. That's why I do not allow coaches to drive those trips. I'll drive the trip if I have to. I will not allow a coach to drive a 3-hour trip and coach at the same time. It's not fair to them. They shouldn't have to take that extra chance. So that's why we're getting a lot.
Appreciate it.
A lot more.
Questions on transportation?
I have 2 questions. One, our cooperative mechanic was working out pretty well with a taxi. Let's not overlook how successful that was. And then this seems like the driest year. We need one full everyday bus driver, and then we're really short on subs.
Yeah, this year's hard. This year we're on one driver ourselves.
Okay. And is there anything we can do to innovate to help?
Come get your license. I could train you.
Producing the drive.
I could train you. I don't know, I'm trying, I talked to everybody, I thought I had a parent the other day when I was at a parent conference. They kinda got too nervous,
Yes, dear.
so, but we'll get by. Well, we always do transportation.
I know, but that's you doing your day job after you do your bus driver, and that's not ideal.
Well, and then it comes down to where I may have to be creative, where if I have too many buses up one day, somebody's getting empty.
Boy, well, out there.
And I'm trying never to cancel athletic training or athletic training because I'm my head. Aaron will just freak out.
Cancel.
Soccer. Well, and what's nice about it is that Marco has a CDL, so if it comes down to it, I'm pulling Marco. Will and David's gonna be come see me. But I'll hold them at the routes.
Sounds good.
You can have a-
I know, I'm bored.
I have 4, you need one. Anyway, so yes, other than that, transportation is fine. Okay.
You're doing great. Any other questions for transportation? Okay, I'm gonna jump over then. Let's just do facilities, and then later on we're talking ADA with Sean. So he's here with us for a while. Thank you, Sean. Just seeing so many compliments coming around the district of people appreciating. A lot of people have really appreciated what they did in the middle school. So it's part of when you set money aside in capital improvements. We saw that earlier tonight, right? That money is set aside so that you can do things like replace carpet on a cycle. And so the painting and the carpet in the hallways in the middle school turned out really well. So I got to give it to you. When I first saw that carpet, I was like, ooh, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And it looks
is
really,
that-
really
Is
good.
that good, or is that?
It looks
is that
great.
Vegas?
Is it like hotel carpet?
We put it together so that door trim was like a carpet.
It came together so great.
Nice.
If you haven't been by the middle school, go. Totally different.
From the front
The
door
powder
in?
blue. I don't know where it came about, but
Always.
Okay, the
Hallways.
four hallways, but the four pods.
always have like a powder blue wall finally. So it's not like halfway down here like, am I in the insane asylum?
Right, whatever that green is.
Periwinkle.
So there's some examples of that. And a lot of our other projects came together. It's the gym floors that have to get redone. It's all the schedules of stuff. We had problems with watering out of Holman that took a lot of energy to rectify and figure it out. A lot of emergency solutions. So a lot of people just really appreciate how much the team worked hard. And the technology team was telling me how much they appreciated the facilities team coming in, helping them carry all the batteries around and helping them with all their little things because Jake and Buckbird can't handle it all by themselves. And so they're there and they work all summer. They work 260 days as your standard custodian contracts. That's the longest contract in the district. Right? They worked the most amount of days of anyone. So, Will, Sean, anything you want to make sure I comment on? I know we're talking some more about ADA and other stuff.
No, I mean, you have the report, and actually, I also sent in the second one. Well, so if there's any questions on that now or after you read it, let me know. We'll get you answers.
We're going to start having the supervisors. Eric does the evening custodial stuff. Which she's that. He's going to be doing a report for that kind of stuff. David does the main stuff, so you see that. So that's the first time we've asked him to do that. Your supervisor role, you're going to start seeing those from them. So they're a little lengthy. If someone is super busy as always, we nailed it. We got everything done that we set out to do. Other than stuff on our list, there's like a second hour list. There's sets of eyes that you have to read. All of these are out there as scripts. And, we have to list ourselves, and some of that has to be done to Christmas.
seeing the improvements and the appreciation. You know, we're doing something right. We're doing something right. And stories are great, buildings are great, and the crew comes in to give the stories hard, and they do it. We got good staff. So yeah, it was a good summer. Super busy as always. But any of the stuff in the board report that you guys want to ask me for, trying to get up to our support, happy to address any of that. I try to be pretty in depth, but not move too crazy. One goes a little long here, but I really try to explain to you guys to understand what we're doing and what's going on. So if there's any questions you guys have.
Transportation, then we'll jump to the next department, which is activities. This is what's on the strategic plan. I'm just giving you the long details.
I would go into kind of echoing what Will said. I think not just Will, but probably board members and community members, like, we'll see the things that weren't done or were wrong or whatever, and not the appreciation of what has been done. And a lot of that is probably just because they don't know. So, you know, just take some of those comments with a grain of salt and understand the appreciation that we all have for knowing what's getting done.
In building staff, it's my third summer, and it's been overwhelming this year, and just the appreciation of the building staff, like that's the stuff, the field stuff from my team, really. Like, been in District 30 years, and it's never looked so good in that stuff, but I have a custodian that is in for a year, she's like, that makes me want to just keep improving more. Those little pieces, the little appreciation pieces, like right now, they open their shadow what didn't make it next time. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of sources, a lot of grounds, there's a lot of loss, there's a lot of people. But we just keep learning, we do it. And we get that appreciation comes in for a long time summer. That's the really stuff.
Any questions on maintenance, facilities, custodial? We're going to get to Oak Street is a different thing. We're going to get to ADA is a different thing. Okay, I'm going slow to go fast. Activities is the other thing. Just to remind you, this is why your board, you talked about Kim and I haven't set up, so your whole strategic plan, this is the time when you get a chance to ask questions about departments in that sense. We have more kids participating this year than we've ever had participating in all our teams. Which is more last year. That was the statement last year. So I was talking to Marco. I think we had 55 kids out on the football team, which is more than last year. But last year also had the Cotopaxi team on there. They're not on this year. And you go to the cross country. I think they told me it was 50 kids. You guys correct me. You got 38 on the soccer team. You've got the same kind of epic numbers on volleyball. And so in all those different places. So that is one of my most important indicators of success is participation. And so then we start to look into how can we help get better coaches or better programs or more supportive systems. It's a big push for Jesse and I. We can talk about that more of our retreat to how can Jesse Hall and myself wrap around that department and help them learn how to do some system stuff that they could do better.
So the other one, David, I would add is marching band is growing.
Yep.
Which is one we kind of always forget about, but those types of programs, the choir programs, the band programs are also activities and continue to pull numbers. And sometimes those kids are in cross country or soccer or volleyball or whatever as well. So it's they're multi-activity, multi-sport students.
So at your high school, you're looking at over 80% participation, which is incredible. And it's not because activities are the indicator of success, but we know that a kid that's engages their academics more and they learn more. There's a direct correlation to that. Plus the mentoring and the connections that adolescents need in the relationship building they get with their various coaches ensures that those kids are in safer places than when they're outside of those activities. So very happy about that. Any comments, questions on, or anything you want me to add about activities?
So like 5 years ago, we were talking about needing to add programs because we continue to grow our participation, and we've not added anything yet, or instituted a cut policy or anything like that.
So
when will those come to where we need them?
I think next time we meet at our retreat, when we have that long work session here in 2 weeks, I think that's an important thing to bring forward. Like, I want this as a priority. Here's where I have a deadline, or what I think would be what I expect. That would be the time to insert that. Let's get it on the list of things to do. Say that's more important than this. We're going to let that drop off the plate. So that's the place to do that. So, anything else? Questions around activities? You want to add something?
No, I just wanted to add really quick too that one of the things you might hear as board members, we are making a big push on all of our stipend positions to get job descriptions and things like that. So Marco's been working on that for the past couple of weeks for all of his head coaches, assistant coaches, head activity directors, all those positions that we have approved. And so as soon as we have those, we'll also be getting work agreements out to all those people as well for the course of the year. So it's a real concerted effort by Marco that we're pushing from our office as well. Do a good job with that.
So do you think that you could have those in place for the fall sports and activities, or do you think that's next spring?
No, I think the goal is to get them out the next 2 weeks and be done for the year, and then next year to have them before the Super Bowl.
Right.
So,
It's a system change. Also, Aaron and I have on our list to do an analysis and try and look at the coaching pay schedules, our activities, stipends. So cleaning up the system is the first step. The second step is to go, are these really the right numbers, or do we need to invest more dollars for these people that are investing in our kids? So you can expect some stuff from us later in the year, around budget season, to go, we got some recommendations. The answer is not less, I know that. The answer will be, it's going to be more. We haven't overhauled that in quite a few years. And so I think we're going to need to invest in that, but we got to do some analysis before I could bring a recommendation, but that's on our list for activities this year. All right. Then I'm going to start to pick up speed. Mentors, I want to let you guys know every new teacher does have a mentor, but we don't have the large mentor grant we had last year. Darcy Harris was spearheading that. We lost that grant. We applied for other grants. Those didn't come in. And so you have a more, what I'm going to call just a bare bones mentoring program in that sense. And then we work with the Mountain BOCES around an induction program. So that'll be something we might have to look at of, is this really a grant-based thing, or we really need to invest our general fund dollars to ensure that we get the highest possible mentoring support to have teachers in those spaces. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. I want to make sure you're aware we do still have the School Health Professional Grant, so SHPG, that's from the middle school. What's come out of that is you have a complete SEL framework that I am super proud of after about 20 years of work. It is comprehensive, from anti-bullying to supporting kids of avoiding drugs and substances, down to, hey, you should be nice, right? It is your second steps. It's tier 1 universal instruction for every kid. It is preschool all the way through 12th grade. And we can say this is weak, this is strong, but it's all in place. It is something to be deeply proud of. Jessica Benna is that coordinator who really helps spearhead all that work with those workers. And I'm looking forward to showing and talking to our partners and community more about that. So more later, but something, the School Health Professional Grant gave us the capacity to get that in place. Because that School Health Professional Grants allowed us to hire another psychologist who's currently at the middle school, still on grants. That's added more psychologists, which allows us to deal with more threat assessments, suicide assessments, and to make sure these systems they're in balance. They're not going too far this way or too far that way. How do we make sure that our kids are just being normal human beings developing? We don't care which side of the political aisle they're on. It's just normal human development, and sometimes people get stuck, and how do we give them the skill to get unstuck so they can keep on moving forward? Very balanced, but very supportive. It's important that our public knows that we're not trying to sell some agenda or anything else. We're just trying to make sure human development doesn't get stuck. Because it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, or how your political affiliations are, puberty happens. Well, we've not found a medical cure to that just yet. It's going to happen again. Go down the 6th grade hallway in the spring, and you'll smell that it's still a reality. And there's nothing to be done with that piece. And so really anchoring our community into, you're a human being. You're not in crisis. You're just developing. It's a perfectly normal question you're asking. You should talk to your family. You should talk to the people in your life, and here's some questions you can ask her. Here's a skill you need to do about how to interact better with people around you. So a lot of different stuff there. So I am excited about the balance. I feel like some things were out of balance across our country, and I feel like all of our psychologists and all of those people supporting our kids are saying it's got to be in balance. It can't be both and. So we'll talk more about that later. I do want to mention you got the Counselor Core Grant. You've also got the Concurrent Enrollment Expansion Grant. We met with CMC as a staff, high school staff, front office, your counselors and Cooksey, and we met for 2 days. And here's the neat thing: we met for 2 days with all CMC leadership and planned how everything was going to work together. And here's the shocker: it was the only school district meeting with their partner, their higher ed partner, to plan it together. Which seems like a really basic strategy, but yeah. So your people are getting together, they're working together, they're coming together, and I heard them articulating what the board set out as a vision 5+ years ago, and I heard them independently saying things in the room over 2 days that sounded like board members from 5 years ago. That's what it is for a board, and set a vision, and then it takes time for that vision to work its way out down to the bottom and how the program is affected by kids. So very exciting. You've got CDIP. You're going to hear that acronym. That stands for credentials in like a trade is the best way to understand it. So one of the things we've added a position through one of those grants that helps kids make sure they're getting credentials, and also help teachers find credentials they can teach our kids that are industry certified, industry accepted. And every time we submit one of those, we get an extra paycheck as a school district, right? So there's also money to support that stuff that's in on top of. So that's CDIP. And the staff, another staff member is taking on a stipend, which helps kind of those high school staff absorbing that mission and that vision that you guys set out. There's also another staff member who's taken on a stipend in addition, around $0.01. So you have 9 $0.01 students at the moment. Those are like 5th-year seniors. They don't take their diploma, and we pay for their tuition. Mostly it's just at CMC. I want to mention that I went into a state conference, I don't know, it was a month ago, and I walked in and there was 9 student profiles, these big posters that they were celebrating and highlighting. I was like, so that's one of our kids. I should have known ahead of time. Here's our kid up on stage, and they recognize us because that kiddo is somebody who's has learning disabilities, has other things, other barriers in his life, and our district was able to wrap around him, doing Ascent, taking forward, publishing a book, getting internships, moving forward. And it was this big celebration of here's a district really doing it for all kids. That's Ascent. And so we have somebody trying to make sure those kids are successful, not just simply signing them up, but signing them up and making sure they get to the end of it. Yeah.
David, was there interest in the 3 stipend positions?
There was high interest. It's competitive. They had to interview for it, which is a great sign of our high school staff getting excited about the mission in front of them.
Leaving in the program. Awesome.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
The third one, there was another area. It's called work-based learning. That's more that internship program. So another staff member is kind of taking on that to try and make sure kids, I would think you're going to see a recommendation in the next 12, 15 months to say we should change our graduation requirements, that every single kid has got to do something real life learning. Like, great, you passed all your classes. Have you gone and actually worked in that field that you have an interest in? And that goes down to that team also saying by the end of the year, really by the end of the semester, they should have those pathways in place. In terms of like which class, all these things, so it can go out, so it can be part of scheduling and everything else. So they're trying to get that done by the end of the semester. That's been a 5-6 year push from the board to say, step it up. And they are answering that. I think it'll be in place. So I want to jump in.
So is that looking to be in place from freshmen through seniors, like meeting with freshmen initially?
Yes, and right, they're going to have to do some phasing. What they've realized is they kind of have to say each class, here's your graduation requirements, here's where we want you to go, but here's the minimum, and they need to define those. And I think it's a good strategy over the years as boards add things or move things around. They can say this is yours. So with the incoming people, they'll just say pick your pathway, and that'll help them pick their 4-year plan with space. And people always think, oh, they're going to put the kids and like put them in a track and then they can never leave. It's not it at all. It's helping a student figure out in a human development appropriate way, here's how these choices fall out for you, and explore it. And then if you discover you want to go a different direction, then you go a different direction.
So the goal though is by the end of the semester, we assume that at least every junior and senior has had a one-on-one counseling meeting?
I don't know. It's a good question. If there's something like that, if that's kind of a metric, because then I can go measure that and tell you back.
Sort of what I'm seeing as a parent of a junior student, and so then having a lot of connection with parents of junior students, that we definitely still have a gap there of how do I make my schedule? What classes should I be taking? Where should I be focusing? Like, I feel like they don't have that vision of where they're headed necessarily, and it's still a little patchwork.
That's great
So I
feedback.
do feel like that's a gap that needs to.
I would definitely like to second that students just sort of like are aimlessly like, oh no, this whole block's full. Try to figure something out. There's nothing for you. I've had
Okay.
experienced that as a sophomore.
Okay, that's great feedback. I can tell you on that side, similar to, but also different, is they're trying to work with CMC and other things. They're going to have to add more electives. One, to make just the matrix of class selections work, but also because our kids are doing so great and we've got high standards, we need more electives. So I would expect that team to come back when we're doing asks to say we want to add another FTE for some sort of an elective space, whether that's in more of your core academics or maybe one of the creative spaces. It's not going to surprise me to see that come our way in April or May whenever we start those conversations. Appreciate the feedback. I like that because if I could have any kind of metric that we could say, okay, here's our baseline, how can we do better? Like every single senior's had this many conversations and then we have to do that. So I appreciate it. I wanted to mention those pieces. You do have a Head Start visit coming up Wednesday and Thursday. Your unique place where you have a preschool through really 20, they call it P20 is kind of the phrase, but you have a preschool through college system. It's something to get excited about. Head Start's at the other end, big funding stream. The feds are in on Wednesday and Thursday. I need some board members who might be available Wednesday and Thursday
Tomorrow or
next week.
Okay.
Just got told about it today.
Yeah.
Anyone available next Wednesday, Thursday?
Except for both days?
No. Either one. Um, an hour on either of those days. Joe, do you get some time? Others? Wednesday's a better day. Wednesday and Thursday. I'll let her know there's options on both days, and then we'll let her better schedule. And I'll have Kim reach out to you and say, here's what I need, and then we'll find some. All right, staffing. I want to hit that because in the rest of the world, staffing is what everyone's talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We are fully staffed. When I say that, that doesn't mean there's not a paraprofessional opening or there's a custodian who are left and we're replacing that position or this or that. But it's something I think I'm very happy and proud. I think it's to Will's credit and the principal's credit. They worked their tails off interviewing. I mean, they put so many extra hours in. I think we have good faculty have been replaced. Anything you want to add about staffing that we need to get into?
Jesse had you had a number of candidates for the secretary position that was open. He hired somebody today. We have an in for a late vacancy. We may fill with a long-term starter until we find somebody else. But looking at that chart that you guys have access to, there's a math position at HEA that we knew about that we've got a workaround for. We've got a English teacher at the high school, and that's it, which is really, really good. I mean, there's districts that still need dozens and dozens of folks just to open. Principals, superintendents, paraprofessionals, bus drivers are a big one.
Is the I know with the high school English opening that also included some CMC concurrent enrollment. Is there?
Yep, we have one of the classes is already backfilled. They already have an instructor for that, as they're looking for how to cover that position best. So
That part of the equation is
the first of the two concurrent classes. So there's Comp 1 and Comp 2. Comp 1's covered. Comp 2 is still trying to problem solve for that.
The CMC trying to step in at all, or are we
Mhm.
asking?
Yeah,
them to?
no.
Okay.
Yep, no, they're the one that went and found the substitute for Comp 1 solution.
Well, I wanted to add first, the secretary that was hired is fluent in Spanish.
correct.
And so that's helping like nursing, that, it's not just 95 homes, so that's exciting. How is that new position to assist Oconee with our Spanish speaking?
That'll be, not to avoid the question, it's brand new. I'm meeting with them both on Thursday.
Okay, so you're just starting and you're getting it going, okay.
And we're working on tweaking some schedule.
Right, sure, it's rolling on day two. So
And that's
okay.
DJ, former
Correct.
Mountain Mail.
Yeah,
reporter,
DJ.
friend, DJ.
He's in expansion.
Two other things of staffing I would just mention, because I think you might hear some noise. We weren't able to find one of the halftime math positions we need at the high school. A service that is providing a distance teacher, so it's digital. There's a para in there. I'd assume some parent would ask questions of you. So we're trying that solution out as we continue to try and figure out the best solution. So just want to let you know that is one of the staffing solutions on that.
Which with that was interesting because it is a virtual teacher. She's actually out of Golden, but she came up for the first 2 days of just staff time to meet teachers in the building and hang out with Jesse. And she stayed for the first day or two with kids so that she could meet her students and put a face with the name so that when we get online, there's a little bit better connection than just I'm the teacher and you're the student, which was pretty impressive. And that was actually outside of the rules of the contract. So,
And is the para who's in the room with the students also got some math background?
I don't know.
Okay. And then was that sort of strategic in building the class of which students would be in that situation?
Another great question, and I don't know, but I can find out easy.
I would just be curious
Yeah.
to know, because I
That's a good
imagine
question.
that isn't ideal for every kid.
Right.
Student.
I think that was an important thing for starting out the year and being ready. We recognized we have a lot of 20-year veterans. We have about 7 more people who made it in the 20-year mark. We get them a jacket with their name on it, and we gave everybody, was tons of people who've made it 15 years in our district. And that's pretty rare in I think our workforce today. I do want to keep moving, so you've got in front of you, I gave it to you now because it's part of your agenda. A little bit here, we discussion what's your retreat or work session agenda. On the back, there's a communications master plan draft. I gave it to you now, so it's got the agenda on it. Just because I'm spending a lot of energy in that, so giving it to you now, you'll see I'll get you some more information to get to that agenda. Just wanted to let you know that a lot of effort is going there as we start off with communications. And then you've also got what I'm recommending for our priorities for the year in that sense, because those will be on your retreat agenda, and a lot of energy is going into that right now. Yep.
Do you want our recommendations to you before the retreat, or
At this point, no, I wouldn't have any capacity to infuse them. So bring your comments and your red lines, whatever else you
after
think,
the retreat?
to your retreat.
Thank you.
The big reason I give it to you now is the harder question is not what do you want me to get better, improve. You got to pick some things to take off the list. That's the question, right? If you really are going to be setting priorities, you're saying no to something. I'm giving you a heads up. I sent you some video on that already, prepping you for that. On that note, you also have a packet that starts with a little grid like this. This is for the retreat as well. It just gives you a sense. This is all the analysis already done of all the market pay of positions. And you'll be seeing us come, Aaron and I are coming with initial ideas of how we think we can improve pay for staff yet again. And so you've got some of our initial documents that you can look at. It may not make sense to you. I'll make a video to come back and explain it to you, but I wanted you to have, I would need a hard copy. So I made you a hard copy. And so when you get the video explanation, you can look at it and walk through it. But that's another big piece that we're getting ready for. As we do that, I do want to mention, you had to do 2 things first. You had to change your whole infrastructure of technology, check. You have to have a complete SEL human development framework so that you can then have a new question. I'm recommending to you, you've seen lots of parents emailing you to say they would like to see you, what they might use the term, ban phones, remove social media, put barriers around the kids. I haven't heard anybody from teachers when I presented the concept that we need to be talking about that as a staff or as a community. It broke out in spontaneous cheer when I told all the counselors, they broke out. So I haven't found parent groups or anybody who's against it. The question might be, what does that mean? How do you do it? What's the timeline? And I think it has to be had in a conversation that's in depth, that's complex of. This is about also bringing AI in the door while you might be having social media go out the door. I can feel like talking out of both sides of your mouth unless you're anchored in human development And that's it. So how does technology good and how is it bad? And how does the school district fit into helping our parents and our community put boundaries around our kids so that they can have their childhood,
And I
so they
think you
can
can
develop.
really address it as two separate issues, as in we want to use technology and give our kids the gift of technology that they will use in their careers or lives, versus the totally separate issue of distracted learning. Right? I don't think those really have to be. I think just go ahead and really separate those out.
There we go. So I think there's some big push. I'm recommending that, but I just wanted you to understand that's why you see the technology infrastructure first, SEL or human development framework, making sure we're clear with everybody. Then we can talk about how does technology fit into that and what we have capacity for. So I know you've been getting a lot of engagement from parents. I want to make sure everybody knows that's on your retreat agenda. Oak Street remodel, Sean team. You got Will. We meet every other week with as a owner's rep. I'm not sure what the name of the meeting is. But we go through it today. We got the entire breakdown of our 5-week here. This happens this day. This happens this day. We've got the entire project. The project should be done by the end of March, 1st of April. That includes all your fire inspections. That gives us about 110 days to get through state fire. If it meets those timelines, which right now it should, I got to give it to DSI. I think they're managing it wonderfully. DLRs in all those meetings from an architectural standpoint. Like today, just so you understand, they're like, let me see the specs on that door. Let me see the specs on that material you're going to use in the concrete thin set. I want to check it. So we're getting DLR on that technical side. I think DSI and our site supervisor, we're very pleased with how that's going. I would expect it to be done on time, on budget. That's how it's sitting right now. We've only spent $125. I'm very pleased with that piece. Aaron comes on that team to help. And so I just want to make sure I name that. And then as a key, because that date of April 1st, I'll use that in my mind because it's easier to remember. That gives me lots of wiggle room to make the transition out of the other building, get people settled. Normally, like when we did Longfellow, like school was supposed to start on August 12th and the due date for the building was August 12th. Like those are not good timelines. I feel really great about this timeline. Aaron, you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say we are seeing, we are on budget. There's definitely, the meetings are great because every 2 weeks, Jake's been really good at communicating, hey, this tweak needs to happen in the budget, both plus and minus. So we're seeing, we're at about even. There's been a few additions, a few subtractions over the past few weeks. And yeah, we're right on budget so far. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, we're not going to get into the design things right now and that stuff. I do want to let you know annexation's rolling forward. So we got that. So you got August 20th. You have a meeting with City Council on September 3rd. It should be done. So those things are in place, and we should be able to put that behind us and be done. We expect right now, I was told that water would be hooked up around the end of December. So that's kind of when we pay tap fees. We'll have to see how it goes.
And that's related to, I was going to say not about the door we talked about the entrance at Crest.
Yes, talk about that.
Should be done so that we can start to use it for second semester. And that's tied into the water tap going into the back. They can't dig that so we can get kids in the front door.
And that's your security piece, right? All those things connected, interplay.
Yes.
Anything else on Oak Street? Any of the three of you guys want to add about that space?
It's not a bar project, but when is
So you've got
from the front of the
3 to
building
4 different construction teams operating in the same block, right? You've got the fire department in Neenah, and they've been amazing to work with. Great neighbors, and they've been very helpful. We've said, hey, can you help us with traffic or parking? Very responsive. Obviously, DSI has been very helpful to us. Y&K Excavation is doing the main part of the Oak Street remodel. Technically, we don't see that access till October, I think, is the construction timeline, but that is not what they're doing. I think basically what they're doing is they're prioritizing us. Tomorrow, I expect to see the pan be poured that would access our asphalt. They've still got to finish doing everything else. Apparently, you can't let people drive on a road that's got big holes in it. I don't know. And but I think we will see access to our site much sooner than maybe than the rest of the street. That appears to be how they're doing it. And so all the construction teams are working together among themselves to try and see where they can be in sync and where they can make sure they're helping each other. And TSI has been working hard to try and help people understand where to park in our zone and help that stuff. So I'm pretty positive on that. Yeah.
Do you know which side of 201 Oak is where you from the state grant? Rescue.
Gotcha. It is supposed to be on the far side as we're sitting here tonight, towards where the trailer houses, homes are, not our side, but in front of our property, in front of the fire station, probably 505, that should have sidewalks, which is not the same thing as the continuous piece all the way along. So, but our curb's already out there, and I think with all the panning soon, it's pretty obvious they're prioritizing the schools to try and get us access as soon as they possibly can, which all I can say is thanks to Y&K and whoever else is in charge of that. Any questions you want me to bring up on Oak? I know a lot of this was in board reports, but I think it's important to say because the public has questions about these things, so I want to make sure we covered that. Your facilities master plan's been out for comments. There's been no really any major comments on that, so we'll bring that to you in September as our goal, or October, depending on when we can do final layout and have that done. And then I'm going to turn it over. Finances, there's been a lot of changes down the business office, not major, but I want to make sure like PTO, everything else, you get a chance to talk about those.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big summer. I think we got a ton done. We're still in the process of a couple little glitches with our software on the PTO switch over, but for the most part, everybody has access to their PTO. We had the buyback program, which was a big chunk. We talked about that in the report, putting up about $450,000 between retirees and the MOU and all these different things. So a lot of money that went to staff or para for their retirement or Medicare, all kinds of things like that. And it really brought down our balances to a much more manageable front. You'll see me putting together the exact numbers now for the next couple of years because I think we want to try to commit those funds to that potentially. This would be my recommendation. So you'll see me come to you with that over the next little bit. Audits happening. Auditors are here, not next week, but the week after. So we're gearing up for that. Have been for a couple months to try to get everything ready. So far, everything's looking good. Not concerned about that week at all. We've been in communication with them a lot. So pretty excited about that. We overall looking good on our budget so far. It's early, obviously, but I don't know. It's good to talk about finances because we're talking, every single person who's talking, more legislation around transportation, and my eyes kind of get squinty. Like, what does that mean to our money? More legislation around nutrition, over and over again. And so yeah, there's been a big piece of that trying to figure out what our budget's going to look like. So we'll be gearing up for a amended budget the next couple months after this. And with that, I'm excited to share with you about the opportunity to work on a committee about the mill levy match program with a new House bill, which is a part of the new finance bill. So an honor above what I'm deserving from Speaker McCluskey, but super excited to get down and work on that. Basically, it's our job to review that portion of the new House bill, which is 24, I believe, 1448 is the new school finance formula, which we should see some more revenue from in the coming years. But the mill levy match program, the whole point of our group is to figure out how to distribute that money equitably throughout all of Colorado, which is exciting because it's easy to sit here and complain about the process and complain that a lot of decisions are being made without our input. And so to have an opportunity to go talk about those things with the state is really exciting. So, and just to work with other really smart individuals in that process. I know I attended a thing with Brett, who's the Aurora representative at Case, and incredibly intelligent, love the way he thinks, challenged me in some of the ways I think, especially when talking about legislation. And so it would be helpful to get the same room with some of those people and understand their perspectives, and at the same time explain what they don't know about rural Salida. So looking forward to the opportunity. I think that's the biggest highlights. And then, switched over to, we were able to bring Kelly in. So if you haven't seen Kelly, go say hi to her. She's been great. But she's also been in an extremely busy season. July is the hardest payroll to run because you're doing a couple different fiscal years worth of payrolls with different contracts and things. And she had a full 1 day of training from Nancy. So it's been a lot of effort from the rest of us to support her where we can. And I think we're getting to a good spot. So excited about where we're going.
Questions around finances, getting school started? It's a huge honor to have Speaker McCluskey nominate us to fill that spot on the school finance committee issues. All right. That is what I had on my list. On the second day of school, we had an incredible start. What we're supposed to talk about is, are we ready for school? Yes, we're ready for school. We're ready to rock and roll. From the external perspectives and those things like test scores or matriculation rates, I haven't seen my matriculation rate, but all those things, positive. The same thing I told all the staff, though, success for us is not those things. That is a definition of success, but success for us is we know every single one of our kids by name, we know them by need, and every single one of our kids is connected to an adult. Nobody's disconnected. So that every kid is growing from where they are to the next level. That's what our success is. I think when you chase the kids, you get amazing test scores. When you chase the test scores, you miss the kids and you miss everything. And so I think that's why year after year, going on 12 straight years now, because I started in year 13, and I remember our middle school is on academic watch. And for the last 12 years, like it's top of the heap, and that's where we'll be again. So we are ready for school and super excited. I know there's lots of areas, there's thousands of details not in place, and we're totally ready, and the kids are doing great, and they're settling in to do that. So any other questions, comments? It was a long thing, but I think it was important from a strategic planning thing that you guys, the whole public, got to hear everything going on.
Two-pronged question. I don't expect the answer necessarily, but
I love your questions.
general sense of enrollment.
Man, you're gonna put that on day 2. You're gonna make
I know
make a prediction.
that's why general
No,
sense.
it's on
12 and a half.
for next year, or for next month. It's on my list to have details of that. We'll be flat or up easy.
Okay. Data, if we can source the Montessori data, it's always good just to, like last year.
Some of that will
Community
be,
group, but it was Montessori.
it may lag a month or 2 behind, just because it's not our data in that sense. But we'll reach out to them. And see what's going on.
That's all.
Most of the data on Montessori I get from the funding formula, which will be coming out in the next couple months as it gets adjusted throughout the year. So I'll be able to get that to you. And just the last data we had from Jim, which is pretty reliable, where he goes back multiple years and looks at where we were at different points of the year. It looks like we're going to see a little bit of growth, but at least be flat. So I'm not concerned about the funding in terms of it.
Yeah, your budget was built on 0. 0 seems absolutely probable, right? A lot of I think you'll see a yield a little bit above 10. That's be my prediction today, but that's a gut feeling. That's not a data driven. Right. So there'll be a couple of things I think are going to work to our positive. Definitely funding stream. That's it. All right. Thank you, boss. That is your district report.
I was not expecting it to be that long. In
I
detail,
know.
but thank you.
But you needed it.
Yeah. Do we need a break? All right. We're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. Thank you. Sorry, Sean, but take a few minutes.
Make sure
You got to come and listen to some praise. Shut off your mic.
back. I think we decided as long as there's not going to be a huge swap, we're going to be approved. Susan. Okay, team. Jumping back in, we are on the consent agenda. So looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Karen. Discussion, comments, thoughts?
I have a request on consent agenda L, approved resolution for Together We Stand Chicken County. I would like to pull it from consent agenda and table it for a short time so maybe we can discuss it at the retreat.
Any questions, comments? So we would need
Don't get lost in Robert's rule.
we would need a motion for the amended consent agenda, pulling item L, just tabling it for future discussion.
Yeah, I have one more comment on something else.
Sure.
And this isn't, we don't need to table everything, but I just need to help David and Joe about this, like just seeing some of these approval and first readings, like the student dress code, which came through from CASB. They made some changes, but our changes that we passed last year, like I just want to make sure we don't get
Their
lost in
line?
approving their new red line that comes through and then we lose all of our red lines that we made last year. So I was kind of just saying in general to David and Kim, like what's our system for tracking what are our specific policies versus CASB policies, so that when these special updates come through, we make sure that we don't miss some of the work that we've done and created the policies to be our own. So I don't know if there's a way to highlight those, and then for the board too, for us to know like, okay, this is CASB. A lot of times it's like they change shall to will, right? But then for us to know like, oh wait, this was one of our policies. We should make sure we check this more carefully, that our
So
changes are maintained.
there's a process I've got set up. Once we finish the audit for policies, what we'll have then is a spreadsheet that says every time it's a local policy is how I have it listed. So then if we do choose to just take over publishing our own policies, which I think Kim and I are moving more and more towards, and not finding that benefit that much from that service, that would allow us to be faster, and then we would have a full-blown analysis of that would be left behind after we're not here. This was a local one. This was a CASB recommended policy, and it's all taken care of. I think that's part of what I'm trying to do as we go through them. Problem is, we're in the middle of systems, so I will catch those in second reading. If like the dress code's a good example, and either say nope, this is the one putting forward, and there's no changes, so it would just die at that point.
So we have the option of adapting what CASB recommends or using our own
Correct.
on all,
Any and all.
any and all. Okay.
Yep. But it's so broad and so many laws, you want to use what they have. That's our legal team. You don't want to pay them to do that. You could never afford it. So you use those as your base backbone, and then when you have something you really want to dig into, like for us, our negotiated policy is a great example where that's what we want, and we have to stay there. And so, yeah, thank you, Mandy, for catching that.
Yep. Like we discussed with Mandy, just like first reading policy is kind of notification, any of those changes, make sure we catch, update, reflect. And second reading, that's kind of more of the conversation time. And then third reading, hopefully, is just finalizing. So.
Biggest one in consent is we're trying to react to the forced changes in Title IX and the timelines they put on there. So it's a lot of that emergency reading, trying to do that. And no one is caught up to the changes, right? So the forcing of a legal policy change before anybody else has had time to react and understand it, I never think is a good strategy, but that's what we don't have a choice to do. So the other ones are kind of getting swept up in that change.
I say, to that point, we pulled the ones that CASB noted were emergent, needed to be changed ASAP, even though they come out in the same policy block, essentially. The ones that are regular policy stuff, you'll see it here as first reading and consent. The ones that were put in as emergency, we did put up to action, just to separate that. Different layers.
Any further discussion? Mandy, are you good to amend your
Yeah.
motion?
So I will amend the motion to pull item L, approved resolution to support bill of obligations, and to table it till we can discuss it.
Retreat?
I mean, it doesn't seem something urgent, so probably the retreat's better than tonight since
Yeah, table it until, you have to put a table on it, so why don't you table it until September?
table it till September.
Karen, do you second the amended motion?
Sure.
And then I don't know if it would be reasonable to request to the board if everyone has time to read that book before the work session, if we really are going to plan to discuss it in more detail. I listened to it in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's
on
easy.
2 times speed.
Yeah, 2 times speed.
Such a go.
That's a
Show
big
off.
ask. Andy. That's a big ask.
30 minutes.
That's another good
It was a
reason,
very
to-
easy read.
another good reason to go to
I
September.
got you, Joe.
I think it's important also when we look at like development of the senior seminar, it's great ways to get your brain thinking about what it is we want to require.
Amended on the table.
All right.
Anything else? Ready for vote?
That covers it. All right, Dr. Beckner-Pettit. Aye. Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Hobbs.
Aye.
Mrs. Lundberg. Aye. Mrs. Pascal. Aye. Ms. Schiffman. Aye. And Mr. Smith.
Aye. Okay, discussion items. ADA playground additions. David, Sean, Will, whoever. Take it away.
Okay, so, you guys all remember, our student Chloe, Crouch, who was amazing. I've been working really closely with her. Oh yeah, I'll just scoot over. Okay. And I think you guys just, reference, you guys can see what's going on, what we're working on. Yeah, yeah. That's okay. No, you guys can share. Because it's all kinds of trees. So those are just some of the items we will discuss and what we're looking at. These 2 pieces are just an idea of what some of the other costs would be. So I'll explain some of that in detail. So working very closely with Chloe and her family, they're wonderful people. She's a great little girl. She is really the driver to this whole thing. And I've kind of met with her at the end of the school year in kind of late May to see what her vision was, what she wanted to do, what we could do for her. And it's not just for her. She wants to have her name on what is going forward, which is awesome. I have been working with Rocky Mountain Recreation, who are the folks who did our playground here at Crest. And they're great and really happy to be working with us as well. So when we started the conversation end of May, I started reaching out to Rocky Mountain Rec in beginning of June, and they notified me then, even if we decided and ordered something then, we wouldn't be until 2025. So we pumped the brakes a little bit on that. I went out, I did site survey, I did dimensions, I did photos of the site. I got those to Rocky Mountain Rec. So we've done all the backside stuff that we need to do, but we weren't going to get any motion on the playground in any kind of timely manner. And we're also not going to try to put a playground in December and January because nobody's going to be able to use that, and this little girl in a wheelchair would not be able to use that either. So we just decided to kind of go a different direction. The numbers there that I kind of shared with you guys, that's what a playground structure, 8 different options that are inclusive and ADA compliant, ramp type features. That's what they can range from just for the feature. That's not for the site work. That's not for the floor in place. That's not for anything but the feature. Yep. So the numbers there are 8 different options that I went through with the family. Not all of those options actually hit the mark for our ADA compliancy and inclusiveness. So after kind of talking back and forth with the family, my kind of motion here is we go a la carte. There are freestanding items, and that's some of the other photos there that I've talked to Chloe and her family about. Said, hey, here's 12 items. Rocky Mountain shared that with us. Give me your top 3. And then maybe we can go that direction. One that should get us there faster and get a couple of items that she could use right away. And it's not just for ADA and for inclusivity, but it's for all students. Also, my rep from Rocky Mountain agreed that we could probably get this in place quicker if we were to do a couple of items. I just talked to Chloe and her mom last week. They were really happy with this direction and understood the why. So that's going to be my recommendation here is we're going to, if you all feel this is the direction we want to go, one, budget-wise, we can probably spend a lot less money and get a lot more for our ADA, and compliancy and our inclusivity. Exactly. We have a huge playground there already. We have a huge structure. So are we going to rip that out to put something that is inclusive? That doesn't make sense. We have other things. The footprint that we're working there with, we are not going to be able to just put a full-scale $200,000 feature in there, right? So thinking through what we can do to hit the mark, what's going to be best interest for us, what's going to be best interest for our student going forward, and then budget and how we can maybe make this happen quicker. So these 3 items are Chloe's top picks. So I've talked to the Rocky Mountain rep this morning. We needed this piece to say, hey, this is what we want, and now she can start to build our proposals. She can start to put together what that's going to look like, and I will have that for you guys in the September board. So there's a couple of other things that go with that. There's site work that is going to need to be done. Borders, concrete borders, plastic borders, whatever that is. There's also going to need to be safety surfaces. And for an ADA or wheelchair access, it's got to be pour in place rubberized material. So that's $25 to $35 a square, right? So we're going to have to figure out what that footprint is. But we needed these pieces to find out what we want to do to move forward and get the direction going forward. I don't think it makes sense, and the family agreed with me. The rep from Rocky Mountain agreed as well. It doesn't make sense to put another full playground structure in there. We run into a much bigger ticket, a longer timeline, etc. So this is agreed upon by myself, by the family. Chloe's great. She was super excited to be able to actually choose what those items were, instead of us saying, hey, we're going to put this in, have fun. She really enjoys this piece, and she's been building it. It's her vision. A part of that is if we were to go with one item and try to do some of the a la carte, our installation may go up, right? If you do more than one piece, they're going to come out, they're going to install more, we're going to get more done in that timeline. And then we have more features instead of, hey, we're just giving you this one thing. So that's the direction. All parties have kind of agreed that we are probably going to get more happening quickly, and it'll probably be better on our overall budget. If you guys remember, they did the Crest Playground. That feature alone was $76,000. So when you're leaving, take a look at the size of that thing. So these other numbers are much bigger, but it needs to be a bigger for ADA. I don't feel that's the direction that we should be going here. That didn't include the $120,000 that you guys approved for the Crest Playground. So that was an additional cost. So these things really start to get into a significant amount of money. So that's kind of the direction we're going. That's the most updated progress report for you guys. The family's really excited. Like I said, the rep is really excited to help us out and get proposal and numbers and such in front of you guys by our next board meeting. But I really kind of wanted to let you guys know where we stand and what this looks like so you guys can help drive this thing as well. Yes?
Is install included in these prices, or that's additional?
So the 20 to 50, is that what you're talking about on the actual structures?
You mentioned site work and surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
That's separate than install.
That's going to be separate.
Okay, so what would install?
So they
additional?
would the feature and then delivery and then installation, but that doesn't include the site work that needs to be.
No, but so the price, look at, say the Sway Fun Glider.
Yep, it says
And
20 to
so
50.
where's 20 to 50,
Yes.
the higher amount is going to be with it.
Not necessarily. We need to figure out the size that we would need for her. In elementary, what do we go from K through 5th? Or K through 5th. they're smaller features. They're going to be less money. So as you get into 5 to 12 years old, those things need to be bigger and such. So that's going to vary. But these are the items that she selected that Rocky Mountain sent, and we will kind of fine tune that piece of it.
And so I missed the part, this is going into the middle school?
Middle school.
Okay.
Yep.
And then my other question is, when Chloe presented to us, she mentioned grants, that she could possibly get grants. Do you have any more information
I
on
have
that?
not had any information from Mom. I think they came from Pagosa, and she was gonna do some of that work over the summer to go back, check in with that, see what she could do about that. But I haven't had any forward motion on the grant side.
I love that you're working with Chloe and the family.
She's awesome.
That's awesome, yeah.
She's
that's
awesome.
good.
That was the first thing after she met with you guys. I just went to Michelle and Erin over there and I said, I think I need to just meet with her. So I just engaged her. We had a chat in the cafeteria and whatnot. And she, like you said, she's just been the driver. I think that needs to be our approach.
How many students do we have that are ADA?
We have two wheelchairs in the middle school, and we have, I think, a couple more coming from elementary at some point that will be there as well.
Okay.
So that's why some of it,
There's also
you know,
a walker
yeah,
in the middle school right
we
now.
have some crutching and
Okay.
whatnot. But that's also the idea of this, is even if we went with some of the bigger structures, wheelchair access wouldn't be, wouldn't be as easy, and it wouldn't, we would have to take that whole unit out, I feel, to replace. And then we really start to get in big numbers.
So you feel like there's enough space to put all three structures?
We can start, right? I have 2,900 square feet in one location there, and then there's another 2,300 as well in the back of the school. Kind of sits back behind the gym. There's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere there. It just kind of comes out of the back door to the gym to the playground, but it doesn't really go anywhere. So it's kind of there, and where the bus lane is, there's a significant amount of space. So we can decide, hey, we want to go this direction. We're going to go do two of these. We can add something later, but we're going to have more room than a large footprint of a full scale feature.
So when will we see a map and the price tag for that?
That we will have, as I'm working with Rocky Mountain, I'll have that for you for September. Yep, because that'll be our footprint, that'll be what it looks like, that'll be all of those pieces. We just needed to know what we wanted to do there and what direction we wanted to go.
And where you're thinking for location, whoever's supervising the playground at that point, they can see that area. I mean, it's all within.
It's all right there.
Playground.
It's all, yep, playground, and there's another climbing feature that's there. This would kind of just be an extension. It's kind of an empty zone. It was supposed to be a volleyball court or something. And
Volleyball a number of years ago.
yeah,
And then you pulled out a bunch of bars, and now it's just.
yeah. So this is a good opportunity to bring up the grounds and the facility there as well. So we can check a couple
And
boxes.
have to add probably some type of sidewalk,
Mhm.
that would ride a sidewalk to the
Yep.
equipment and,
Yep.
So that the kids can get home safely.
So we'll have a better idea now with these features, and we'll get some numbers, and then you guys can decide what we want to do and how many we want to do. But at least we now know kind of the direction. I'm asking for the support on this. If you guys want to go a different direction and you want me to get you the whole scale products and whatnot and the numbers associated, I'm happy to do that. But like I said, I think we can hit the mark for her. She's really happy going forward without having to do a huge project. We can probably move this along a lot faster and get usage out of it pretty quick.
Yeah, I think my concerns are kind of the wood chips in general. I understand the design originally, but I know that does not help any of our EDA students just trying to navigate through that.
Yep.
And then I also think the long fellow probably should be considered for something. Agree on. You know, when you would shift over to Xander, you think about something across the all of that should be considered. Grant opportunities, create city conversations. I mean, it's going to be an extensive cost, and I think we should explore all avenues to help cover that.
Yep, agreed. And I engage the city folks. They have one park that is ADA and inclusive, and that's 100%. So they deal with that stuff often. I work for the city. I was in parks. it's an ongoing conversation. So for us to actually have the opportunity to maybe captain that and start putting things in for us, we can set the standard and we can do for our kids and do for the community. All of our playgrounds are public, so they use our stuff. So it's kind of collaborative. I know they have a tough time with that, but we can end this thing and we can start doing it for our kiddos.
So whose job would it be to pursue these grants?
There is no one who just has that freedom notebook. So we can look for a grant writer and say, once we have the exact project lined out, I could give it to our one main grant writer who helps us and see if they can identify a grant, but also we could say, does it cost for a grant?
And I'm
We can
happy
reach
to-
out. The answer is just nobody on staff who's- has that capacity or that.
That was my assumption.
Yeah.
So we just keep saying, if we get a grant, I just wanted to know like who is going to be getting.
There's a
said
magical person out there called the grant person that no one actually
grant.
knows.
I think Aaron's signing up
I
with
do
this
think
extra
that there
committee
are-
work.
I will reach out to a couple of people because I think there's a group enough of folks in the community that have interest in this.
It does seem like potentially this would be something that one of our larger businesses in town would be interested in having their name on too. Buy a structure and we'll put your name on it.
Well, and Chloe and her family did offer, I mean, they did say that they had, so I'd say start there too.
And my follow-up with them is after we were chatting tonight, I will talk to them this week and let them know how it went. And come over there, and they said they'd like us to be at a board meeting, so maybe we'll see them in September. But I can ask, I can kind of check in with her, and I'm happy to chat with the city folks. We have shared, mulch when things are coming to be delivered. They put it in parks, we put it here, we split the bill. It might be an opportunity that we can find a way to do some of this together, and whatever that looks like, whatever resources, opportunities we can try.
The key thing is you guys comfortable with them pursuing what is outlined?
Does Chloe have an order of merit on this screen?
Yep. They were.
What does she, the insight, yeah, text that.
Yep, and that's what I asked for to do. So please be over the top of these, and we start there. Sway fund.
That's what I was.
I think I had them in the right order, and then we go around, and then the sway.
Okay, and that's like a
Teacup?
teacup.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
I mean, trucks are excellent.
These are great because
She
again,
knows
they're great for all of our
Everybody.
students.
Well, and that's what we looked at, where
Right.
even
How would
if
they
we
get
put a
from
full feature in,
a wheelchair,
a lot of
but
it
as
is-
it's moving?
they didn't appear to be kind to wheelchair access
Yeah,
for
like
these
these
grants and
makes
such. But it
Yeah.
almost seemed like the other kids would be all over that as well, which is what we want. But it just didn't totally make sense. Whereas these pieces, everybody can use it, but also it's really accessible.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes.
hopefully this is
Yes.
kind of a standard moving forward,
Right.
right? If we were to build a new
Yep.
playground.
Yep.
This is a large consideration.
Yes. So Joe's comment, kind of concerned about the wood chips, like we can't do that there. We've already dealt with that at the middle school, and we're putting product in to try to. So this direction is definitely something we need to kind of be looking at going forward. And yeah, at the other schools, it's great.
I like this first one.
Excellent.
And I remember that way,
It should,
expensive,
yes,
bulky, and
yes.
it's not available.
This is the additional option there outside of having to do a whole other. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. So I would
Appreciate
like
you
to-
jumping on it.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, the August meeting for facilities, everything touches facilities. So the August meeting is always something to, so I don't mind being here and having some questions. So if you guys are okay with it, I'm going to chat with the family tomorrow. Say, hey, this went well. We will consider moving along here. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Make sure, I will ask about some grant stuff and that. So done. And I will just keep you guys updated. I will report back and we'll have an update in September. Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate you jumping on it as quick as you have and having some solutions to start considering, because certainly it was an out of the blue request and merits it. So.
Happy to. Yeah, I'm glad you guys considered that right away. She's special.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. I see you're on. So thank you.
Hey, my snacks are going, so.
There's a lot of stuff left there. He was like, "I'm getting out of here." I was like, "Oh, whatever." You wouldn't have made it too far. Thanks, Al. All right, next discussion item: draft agenda for the work session, August 23rd. Jen's gonna have to rename those comments. The grind. Oh, you're back to retreat? Oh, retreat. Got it. So we passed this around, David mentioned it a little bit ago, and had a few of these attachments. Karen, David, and I met for agenda review and kind of set out this preliminary work session day, kind of touching on the various things that we do, need to, and various times. I imagine the usual one of them saying, yeah, let's just go through lunch and tackle on things. But general outline is there. Are there any questions, comments, thoughts, additions, things of that nature that potentially add where we stand on there? We could not get to that. But that other piece could just turn into that time. Tackle most of it, but we don't have to push it into anything that we feel like we must. No, so Speaker McCluskey has reached out. Speaker McCluskey has reached out and asked that we host for the Q&A. So just to discuss that, and if we're okay with that, it would be okay. Really taking any political stance here. So kind of just taking more of that discussion.
If they do, that'll be part of it. So we'll have to bring that in there. The big one I think is really budget oriented. That's more vision and financial planning is going to be that salary comparisons. We're going to come and say, here's where we're sitting in the market, our salary schedules. That's why I gave you the data tonight, and I'll send you some updates on that later. To say, here's what we're seeing in our market of districts, our size, which means they have our revenues, how our position, our salary schedules are falling. So it's not looking at a person, it's looking at positions. Then we're going to say, hey, here's if we enacted a tentative agreement, here's how that would change, which numbers go from black to red. And then Aaron and I would bring in, and here's how we think we can adjust these positions. I think we'll be left with conversation about, what I'm excited about. I'm like, well, great, we've done good with teacher pay. What's the next goal? What's the next vision? And start to talk about that in the retreat. So I think you'll get all those kind of big picture finances as well as the little stuff to go and start to make vision around how can we go after staff pay and not stop and say it's good enough and keep on chasing.
I think the 3 to 4 would be invite Michael
I
Lamont?
haven't invited Michael Lamont. I know that CBT thing. I think it's important that he's there and give him a chance to speak. And he and I are also sitting down and trying to get a few of the items that were kind of left hanging when we left the school year and get those wrapped up. I think he's very much interested in good faith of making things happen and getting work done. So we want to come and share some of those things because I know it'll be important. And the key question we have to ask ourselves is we struggle to figure out what's the best way to get staff input is going to be what is that criteria for success. That's how I tried to lay it out. I think most of what I'm going to be looking for in the trade agenda, because things are in such good shape, all your systems are, what's that metric whereby a board can stay at 30,000 feet and say, this is meeting community expectations? That's where I'd like us to see where we can develop those better. I think that's the next step, including around CBT.
What specifically are you thinking goes with this communication plan?
So the communication plan, if you flip over from that agenda, you'll see that. I'll send you a video on that later this week when I get a chance to read. But it's something that I believe is the next thing strategically that I'm recommending, is to really put a lot of energy into a master communications plan, we'll call it, but a large scale effort to try and make sure people can tell their story, whether that's a parent, a retiree, a teacher, a kid. Many of people don't know our story well enough in terms of details to say, wow, this is going great. Look at the Board of Education, we invest $150 or whatever $1,000 into making sure every single kid has playground equipment. How we look at this, I just don't think most people are getting all the stories. So we make push for it.
Jason, did you say you sent us a video?
Not yet.
No.
I gave you the sheets of paper since you were here. I'll send you the backup explanation
We have the video.
on day 3 and 4 of school. You have the bullet video around the priorities, but I didn't.
You did send that? What's it called?
Came in the flurry of emails.
The video's in, like, it's at the bottom of the email about this. It's about this attachment.
I'll find it and send it to you. Can't find it.
I'll look for it.
Yes.
I thought I saw it.
I gave you the priorities because I knew that that's the big part of the discussion around our retreat. And
Yesterday. 24, 25 strategic priorities.
anyways, I knew you needed that ahead of time, or else you'd also didn't know what we were talking about tonight versus a week and a half from now.
My electricity on, I shouldn't feel it.
I knew I was going to have to listen to that, so I didn't listen to that.
I'll just tell you that the other things, like, I think there's a few other conversations I've heard people talk about, like, but I wasn't sure I'd fit them into the day. So what I needed tonight was, like, I've got some others on there. You asked about McCluskey. I don't know that it's really needs to be a big item or use up your time. Your time's precious when we get all 7 of us together. Like the maintenance department, is there anybody who feels like, hey, we need an hour that day, we really want to dig in, talk about the metrics of measurement there, or you're like, looks like you guys got it. You don't need to get into it. Activities, same thing. What's the metrics of what a good activities is? We know participation is part of it. There's more to it. Do I need to listen as a staff and make sure I'm hearing what the community from you guys? What's the metric of success and anything around that? Does that need to be on the agenda?
I mean, I think the activities is maybe one, just in terms of what Joe was saying, how much our numbers are increasing. I know middle school volleyball is, I heard some discussion of 6th graders probably aren't going to be able to participate. Maybe talking to the rec department about trying to get a 6th grade girls volleyball program going in the fall. So I do feel like potentially athletics, there is a lot of things, there are a lot of things going on that I don't know if we need to have some time to discuss, or if it's more just as things come down the pipe, we talk about in meetings.
Let's take a shot. I think it's why I put it on the list, because for me it's an important one this year.
Well, and if we're really using that as a metric for our success,
Mhm.
and we want all kids involved, then it really is a big focus. And if we don't have enough programs for all kids to be involved, I mean, I would hate to get to the point, and we are at that point, at least at the middle school level, where we are trying to
Right.
we are sending people to
Yeah, I have multiple coaches talking about I'm going to have to cut in order to make this actually fair.
right? And I
We
may
don't wanna
now
go
be
there.
stuck on volunteering once a week as a volleyball coach.
I think the other
Because I really hate the idea of cutting kids off and maybe it's worth it to try.
We're not doing that, to be clear, in both meetings.
Okay.
And the
Right.
coach is
We're
saying,
not
I don't know what to
cutting.
do, I've got,
Yeah.
I don't have enough slots to participation to put this many kids successfully.
The other
And we're
thing,
not cutting, but we might not be letting sixth graders participate, which on some level is.
so the other thing that happens in the sixth grade is a great example. Is many of the schools in Florida don't have 3 levels of teams. Soccer in high school is a good example. A lot of teams don't have the C level for it. So we have kids, 3 teams. Well, third team practices every day and doesn't play but a couple of games.
But at least we're developing those players and they're connected after school and they're getting mentored by the older boys and they're not running around downtown. So I still would argue that even if they don't have competition to play against, having them in the program and practicing is still.
Make sure you see the list, set it up, and you see like, I think you're gonna need about an hour time. I think I can shrink some of the time set aside for setting the strategic priorities of that. I don't know, I think we need about an hour to talk through the social media, phones, AI, things like that. Some of them need to be hard pressed or what they can voice them. That seems about right. Facility update, is that something where people feel like that's essential to their conversations?
I do think that it could be that working lunch time frame and get through most of it. We discussed a lot of it tonight. There's an addition to the agenda that we want to figure out to add these resolutions that we talked about earlier. These are 5 to next meeting. So probably have a special meeting to approve those, but David's got his direction. Should be next Tuesday. So that should be pretty.
Where would we fit in a discussion on, like we mentioned earlier, trying to find more classes when somebody tries to enroll in a class and it's full, the primary class is full, and they don't really have a good secondary class.
So like high school schedule electives? Okay. I don't know the answer, but I wrote it down.
Well, and was that the question, or was the question that they have someone to talk to about what else they could do? Was it, or both? Both, okay.
Indoor pathways, I'm gonna write down my notes.
Yeah, and I do think that if we don't tackle these at this meeting, we'll have the opportunity to go out sessions, discussions.
So part of that, like if you say that, if it's not discussion here, but it's, you say this is a priority, David, we want you to get the system better around pathways during the year. That's why if you look at this very last page, that I always put with your priorities, this is how many meetings you have. And these are already predetermined topics in your meetings. So the Board of Education can only move so many things forward. Right? And so thinking through, this is an easy one. Where are you going to put all those priorities? When is the decision point of what do I have to say in the conversation with a certain group is? So that's it.
One more thing, I know there's lots of articles that have been releasing to the podcast on social media and all different districts' policies and things. We are afraid to
Yeah, we can do it. Let me ask the lawyer how they want that to make sure that it meets within open records laws. The other thing we always do is, like, you send it to everybody, we can just include it in the minutes of the next board meeting, so that it's really transparent to the community that you had this conversation, but it was in an email. We suggested, boom, this resource, everybody might want to look at this or register for this.
Maybe I just,
That means sending it to me and then I can send it out to the board, but just being aware of, like, if I send everyone a link, we don't all respond to that email with our thoughts at that time.
Right.
That it's, you can all take it, review it, and we'll get back to that.
That's normally the easiest way.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just being
So I
careful
can just-
not
I'll
to
just send
respond to the link when I send it Me and I sent this and wanted everyone to see it. Great. Read it, review it. Don't tell us.
Chit chat.
Yeah.
Reply all is always going to get us probably more trouble than
Okay. I think we've got this outline pretty well built. We may discuss again and come back with a small modification, but I think we're
Start
well
with the
aligned.
priorities would be my recommendation, and then I'll send out a video on salary analysis because I think that's an important conversation to many staff. It is, and then also around that communications plan, I'll send you some of my thoughts so you're ready to have a conversation.
Yeah, do our best to do some due diligence ahead of time so we can come to the meeting and not hear from David, but rather just discuss what he sent us. Okay, action items. Are you two good? We're looking at something.
Did we table the resolution?
They were not on the agenda. We didn't catch it when we approved the agenda.
Technical snafu.
So what do we do?
So we're going to add them to the retreat agenda. It's a special agenda. Give us a little bit of time to clarify and make them clean and pretty, and also will not affect the work.
Good catch. We missed it as we rolled it, but we did not accept it.
Downside of the second day of school.
Power going out. All
All the things today. Like, are we gonna be able to have a meeting later though?
We'll be okay though. That'll be just fine.
But good catch.
Okay, so moving into action items. So looking for a motion to approve on first reading policies from CASB, the emergency approval special policy updates from June 28, 2024. Looking for a motion. So moved. Jen, questions? Ben first, Jen second. David, just want to clarify what we're doing here.
As far as I know, these are all the correct things. You're good to go.
So these were of that big group of policies that has this now, and the ones that were normal process, smaller tier consent, these are ones that identified that needed to be emergency approvals. So we'll not separately just to clarify that.
Yeah, Jody.
Action items, are we in this discussion?
We're in action item A. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Discussion.
So we're at A action. Discussion.
Yes.
Never mind.
Okay. Emergency approval. Looking for vote.
So that's me. Dr. Beckman Kennedy. Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Haas.
Aye.
Mrs. Lundberg.
Aye.
Mrs. Haskell. Aye. Ms. Schiffman. And Mr. Smith.
Aye. Okay, moving on to B. Call for motion to approve second reading policies, CASB emergency approval, special policy updates from May 10th, 2024. Good. Questions, comments, clarifiers? Here's our vote.
All right, Dr. Beckman Kennedy. Dr. Hill. Mr. Haas. Mrs. Lundberg.
Aye.
Mrs. Haskell. Ms. Schiffman. And Mr. Smith.
Aye. Okay, C, calling for a motion to approve addition of 2.5 FTE positions to support lunch and substitute duty at Salida Middle School. Thank you. Dr. Commissioner, did you have a comment?
Discussion. Go.
Okay, and this is for David and Will and probably Aaron and you know, the executives, is that we're spending an entire FTE on this, and we don't get to rank order them, and it happens every year. In the spring, we didn't do teacher coaching, 1 FTE. It didn't make the cut, and so that mentoring progress we made is stagnant. And then this is coming in, and it happens every year, and I guess I want more foresight, more vision. I didn't realize that we were voting on this today. This was just a beginning discussion, whereas the Spanish department has to defend their request for another Spanish important. This is lack of foresight that maybe on the principal's behalf, or the dean and the principal at the middle school, but this is not when we talk about these things. We talk about them in the spring, and we get to arm wrestle and have priorities and input from the staff, and some things don't happen, and those are overlooked now, and this is just moving in front of all of them. I'm not comfortable with that, but it happens every year.
Let me respond to that. I think it's important that Aaron walk through the operational finances of it. I can see your point, and I think part of that is, yeah, we can always try and have better foresight, and we can always do better in that area. So I'm not going to sidestep that at all. I think also when you overhaul systems in this case, so what we're looking at here is overhaul of teachers asked to launch came back here and looked at our solution to cover these options. We just engaged and said, let's make as much sense as yeah, no, I think it's very, very close to oversight. I apologize for that. I think the biggest piece of it we knew there was a situation where teachers coming out 3 years. It's been give me or take 10 dollars an hour for a while. With the new policy that changed and some of the active policy which try to be moment and if you look back at this one, so it's like, okay, this is what this actually says. And so the new policy will be and so what does that mean financially? So just research on that. That's where I learned that there's 8 different kinds of middle school buildings. The elementary school is a devastation. Basically, this one and the answer is 2 hours a day. The discussion has always been let's find somebody in middle school to so, fair enough. We went into the year thinking they were still probably going to be paying $34.75 times 8, so it's about $280 a day for lunch. Yeah, and so just trying to think through, okay, what are some ways that we can figure this out financially? I know the big problem with middle school is, and it's not just in middle school, it's middle school and high school, is once you get into teachers coaching and activities and things like that, suddenly we're having to cover 2-3 hours a day in the afternoon and subsequently for 2 to 3 hours a day, so then we're paying teachers to cover and give up their class period. So now we're kind of, in many ways, we're asking teachers to give up the planning period, give up their lunch. We are compensating for that, but we're not at their hourly rate. It's typically a base hourly rate. But so we're losing a lot of money in that sense when we start doing analysis. And so that's where the solution came from. How do we solve 2 problems together potentially? And this was kind of the idea is, okay, if we bring somebody in for 5 hours a day, 2 different people, instead of asking them 2 hours a day, we're only paying $200 total. Right, yeah, and I fully appreciate what you're saying. I think that comes to use.
No, they get
Yeah, so they're offered halftime benefits. I will say the difficult part is most of the time with the classified staff and halftime benefits, they don't accept it because they're having to pay the other half. And at halftime, generally, you're working just for benefits if you're paying half the benefits. So it's been, I mean, it's always offered. It's seldom taken at halftime.
I think the reason this is being put in front of you in the analysis is this would actually be more affordable, percent. It puts teachers having their lunch, right? I think that's an important thing. We want our teachers to have that space. That's why it's in the contract. And then it actually gets us a better substitute solution than we currently have. So It is a last minute operation. I apologize for that. And I can't support that. It makes more sense.
Well, and can I make one more statement too? This is a cultural thing at the middle school that's existed for a long time. And so in talking, I mean, we discussed with Michelle last year, how do we address some of these questions? And it's a huge cultural shift to say, we have 8 teachers that have been earning leave every single lunch or earning money every single lunch. And now we're going to say, you can't do that anymore. And that's how it could have been perceived. And so part of this process too has been Michelle going to her staff. And one of the pieces of that was she spoke with her staff last week, and they all felt on board that, yeah, we'd like to have our lunches and not too much. We'd like to have our planning periods. But I think that's part of the process too. We were discussing it with her, as the lead was transitioning at the end of last year. Part of her concern was, culturally, this is a big shift we've had lately, and my staff's now leaving. How do we communicate this? How do we do this in an appropriate way? And we didn't know at that point that it was going to be as big of a financial thing. So it's a mixture of a lot of things. But I think an important part of the conversation, Michelle's had that conversation, and the teachers seem very positive towards it, which I wouldn't put something in front of you. Otherwise, it's going to be a massive shift just to say, hey, we need to save money.
That was my question, is there a job description, so if there's not, because I thought the same thing.
But they're hourly employees, so if there was no need, and the employee wanted to go home, I'm sure that would be worked out. That's what we're seeing. But at the same time, I think it's a fair question. I also took the analysis of how many subs we had in the building, how many times we could not find subs last year, including just in that building last year, we paid somebody full time to be a substitute teacher for a whole year. That was busy every single day, even after the first 3 months where they were in the classroom. I think you're going to find that even if they have a person who's out the whole day, if they say, well, hey, we can cover even in the morning, as long as we know we have something that can cover that, I think they'll be busy.
Can you clarify the need for 2 versus 1?
Yeah, so I mean, you have to have 2 people at each lunch period is what the communication was to me. And so you're in a position where, okay, we can hire one, but we're still gonna have to ask at least 1 teacher 4 times to do lunch period. And so again, by the time you do that, you can pay less and have somebody come in afterwards.
I don't know the answer to that. Specific teacher options. I think we talked about it as a full-time activity, or if we want those things, full-time activity, which is an additional aspect of others.
And is it easier finding half-time people, or do we get more applications if it's full-time?
I would say we get more applications for full-time job, but we need, in this situation,
that's why I didn't have them consent, and we do less conversation, it was kind of the last minute. Just want to make sure that you can take action, so you guys have a chance, and understand if you feel like it's kind of too late, we need to table it. We'll do that, I just want to put up its options, but it does seem operational, like it's a better solution than what we currently have, so.
Other buildings approach this differently, so you, like you already have that staff with your
Yes.
How does this work?
Longfellow has 2 people during lunches to do that. That come in for a period of time, and the high school solved it by this year by not having, I believe, 2 teachers don't have a,
Supervisor.
we call it crew advisory, whatever that period is. So in lieu of that, they do the lunch duty. The thing that's semi-unique at the middle school is just there's 4 full lunch periods. You can say that for the elementary school too, but
Which is elementary school has recess monitors.
Right.
I honestly would if we would consider tackling the bus driver piece. I think we've talked about it beforehand.
Throw it out a little bit there.
So yeah, and I mean, I would be, so a way you could solve it in the interim short term is if somebody's that they're not going to be in overtime, they could hire on as a substitute with Evelyn as well, and do that this year, and then we could look at reevaluating the position at the next equal operational. I mean, I think that the key will be no matter what, these positions need to be looked at on the next wish list and see if that's what we want to do going forward.
So if they're subbing, do all our subs, are they all qualified and certified as
Two different
teachers?
levels.
So,
We have different substitute license, so we pay different rates, different things.
Okay.
Right? So if you have a high school diploma, you can get a substitute license. So you could have a high school diploma, be licensed to be able to substitute in that supervisory role as well as do a lunch recess monitor with a high school diploma, as an example. Or you could be a 30-year veteran who's taught, retired, still living in town and coming back. And we pay those people a higher rate for maintaining a higher license or a higher, more robust license than that initial substitute license. Is
So
that right?
they don't necessarily have to be licensed.
No, they don't need to have a bachelor's degree in education.
Okay.
the state said high school diploma will get you a 1-year authorization for a site license.
Ready for a vote?
All right, Dr. Breckenridge-Pettit. Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Hobbs.
Aye.
Mrs. Lundberg.
Aye.
Mrs. Haskell. Ms. Schiffman. And Mr. Smith.
Okay. Board Communications Committee reports. BOCES, Andy, any updates?
I don't think so. And it's meeting September 12th.
No, just to let you know, we've got Heather McFadden. She's our new BOCES Special Ed Coordinator, full-time here. We meet almost every single day. I'm also speaking with SPED this year with her, trying to make sure the organization settles in. I'm super thrilled about that piece. So, just in SPED, that's where most of our energy is in BOCES. So, and we'll see what things go.
Facilities, we talked a little bit tonight, and we talked about the retreat, so nothing new there. Communications, we talked a little bit about the retreat, I'm sure we'll go there.
Kind of the big thing that David mentioned at the website.
So logical.
The app
So
is
logical.
TBD.
The app is.
The app is TBD.
It's TBD. Because we just have so many cool new IT things that we've layered in. And yeah, just trying to decide the best path forward.
Jen and Casby.
I have asked, I discussed this a little bit with Andy, but asked that Casby at the annual conference host a panel on cell-phone issue. Hopefully with some schools who have already done it, so that we can see how that's going on and done. There is the fall conference in October. It's in Pueblo. It's the weekend of the state round finals, which I hope my grandmother want to go to. So if someone would maybe be interested in that, again, I'm not sure that it's the best use of time, but just throwing that out there. Mid-October.
I think it's like December 5th, 6th, 7th, is the conference.
So yeah, so Jen's piece to, I think they're calling them the boardsmanship academies.
Delegate assembly.
Yeah, it's a big prior to that. The December annual conference was December, sorry. I think that's the 5th to the 7th. And I do, if you have not responded to me yet, yeah, the 5th to the 7th, if you're going, I need to know ASAP. Because we do need to get registration done like this week so that then we're in line, should there be next week. And we registered first.
Can we let her know now if we're going? 6, 6, 7?
Anyone not going? Everyone's going?
Oh,
We'll get it all registered, we can back out our registrations, get it all registered and see how many rooms at Cassie we can get.
students?
I'll have to come back to that.
Okay. Thank you.
In support of it.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Ben, you hang out with the cool kids at DAC yet?
No, but I believe Monday we have, I mean,
We do. We'll be focused on hopefully accreditation, hopefully I can talk to them about that. It's not embargoed, I have to check on the piece of how we're looking at the district priorities, so I can come into the retreat, and then I would have heard some thoughts from them.
Is that meeting?
The DAC will be right here. Welcome to join us, and Ben's the one kind of spearheading that piece, so talk to him. Sounds good.
Policy audit update, do you have an update, or is that retreat level? or-
It's pretty quick here. I'm waiting. I want to get school year started. We've got 6 books left to do, 4 already, and back from the lawyer. I just need to know if somebody is interested in helping me. These first 4 are pretty light. They're not heavy. I just need another board member to kind of confirm that what I've done, what the lawyer's saying, makes sense. I just think it's important the board review that. So I'm looking for somebody. I think Matt would really, he's thinking about raising his hand here in a second to help me with those 4 books. He's about ready to. It's about to happen.
Well, I know Joe had said something about in the one email chain of you just assigning us to what you felt like was more in our skill set. So what happened to that?
I've got that piece. I'll go over that in the.
So Matt's skill set is all of them, is what you're saying.
I'm trying to also look at asks. I've got different things I've asked different people coming to the retreat, so we can go on it then. And also then book I and J. J is your student book policy plan, so everyone's aware. Try and maybe do October when I have a chance to read the theory. And go through that, and I'm asking Karen to help me with books I and J because of your background as a principal, and I think we're perfect to go through the student policies. Then once that's done, then we're going to take that cleaned up policy book and go against the student handbooks and then do a crosswalk to see if what our policies are, if that's what we're actually practicing and publishing. So it's kind of my thought across the year. But the first 4 books are pretty light and ready to go. So. Okay.
That is not.
What are they? Which policy books?
Yeah, what's the story? Yeah, what's the?
Policy books.
I'm just going with the fact that he said they were.
So we finished ABCD.
E, F, K, and L.
EFKL.
E is.
E, F, K, and L. I've reviewed them all. The lawyers reviewed them all, so I think they're ready for approval.
Support facilities planning,
I'll help on
K, community relations, and L, educational agencies.
Aren't those
Just sounded
Just so-
intriguing.
I mean, I'm super excited.
I'll help with that if you want to split it up in that regard. But if you want one less of us to deal with it, just.
I was just trying to get those out of the way, so we just had, like last year, we worked on G, that was a big lift. J's not of that magnitude, it's big, and I really wanted Karen with her background to help me on that one.
And I don't know if you need to, but.
So you'll just send the email, I think, before instruction.
Yep.
If you don't send it to me, I won't be offended. 'Cause I'm the worst one to review
I
policy.
don't, I'll just do it.
If anyone
I'll
else
do
is
it.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thanks, Mandy. I'll buy you a special drink for Kathy. Future business, topics for future meetings. Jody, you asked to be on here at this point. League of Women Voters, you ready for that?
Oh, no, in reports.
So, and I dropped you in to future business for the moment.
wherever you need to be.
Knowing that like
Turn your mic
something
on.
we're going to talk about. Yes, it's
Floor is yours.
Another partnership that we can leverage is we have some questions that we want to have dialogue with the community. League of Women Voters wants to have a larger footprint in the south of the county. So maybe having 3 events in the next semester and a half. Having when Speaker McCluskey comes, we can partner together. Auditorium, but we can double our interest. An idea about giving community input on the use or banning phones in the classroom. And then a third one,
National speaker in January.
maybe perhaps a national speaker on that topic of either devices and mental health, interruptions of learning, etc. And so we're just having a dialogue, and they seem amenable to it, and it's a good way to. I don't want to say put all of our burdens on them, but they have that network already, and they just need some exciting questions and stuff. So we have plenty of those.
That's a nonpartisan group.
We are nonpartisan, and they are nonpartisan. Absolutely.
I would say on the economic development hat, we kind of followed their lead of how they put together their debates for elected stuff, and we said we want to have that
Have some.
from a business perspective, and kind of follow their model.
So not necessarily partnering, but just learning from, mimicking.
Yeah, and they have their own different issues that they would ask, and we said we're going to do this for the business community.
And I have an email. They emailed me back, and I just sent it back.
I think it's a good partnership. Blue book they send out is like their political piece every
That is-
4 years,
it's
2
essential.
years. It's like, oh yeah,
Reading.
now I know what I'm doing.
So my plan is then to add it, that works for everyone, to that reports section for next month.
In theory.
In theory, all the things, I'll wait for Jody to go ahead. Future meeting.
Okay, we talked about our August retreat work session. So we'll finalize that agenda and send that out. Next meeting looks like September 10th. Anybody want to volunteer for agenda review the week before? Don't all jump at once.
Slow down, man.
School.
I know, I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Mandy's the only one that said I can, so we'll take
All
Mandy.
right, I've got her name down.
Beautiful. Motion to adjourn. Killing it tonight. 9:12.
I told Anna I'd be with the team.
Yeah, she has some expectations, girlfriend.
If Dr.